Imagine that. You're counting change for a cup of coffee, and there it is, a penny from 1967. Ordinary to everyone else, but to the right collector, it's a life-changing discovery. This is no ordinary cent. It's one of the rarest survivors of an era when the U.S. Mint was quietly experimenting, correcting, and sometimes making mistakes that would go unnoticed for decades. Back in 1967, something unusual was happening. The Mint had temporarily removed mint marks from all U.S. coins to discourage collectors from hoarding them. That's right, no D, no S, no P. Just blank, mysterious pennies that looked alike, until you looked closer. Because in that year, a handful of coins came out with unusual errors, off-center strikes, doubled dies, and even misaligned lettering that shouldn't exist. One of those flawed, forgotten coins would go on to fetch nearly $1 million at auction. It all comes down to rarity, condition, and the kind of human story that collectors live for. One such coin surfaced in a small town decades later. It was found in a family's old coin jar, a jar that hadn't been touched since the 1970s. When they took it to a coin show, just for fun, a dealer's eyes went wide. The strike was off by a fraction, the lettering slightly doubled, the copper color unusually rich. Within weeks, that penny had been authenticated and insured for over $900,000. Collectors were stunned. The 1967 penny had always been overlooked, a year when mint marks disappeared, and people lost interest. But now, this unassuming coin had become one of the most talked about treasures in modern numismatic history. And suddenly, everyone wanted to check their own 1967 pennies. Let's rewind to the mid-1960s. Coin collecting had exploded in popularity. The mint was overwhelmed. People were hoarding coins, especially those with mint marks, thinking they'd become rare. So, in 1965, the U.S. government made a bold decision. They would remove mint marks from all coins for the next 3 years, 1965, 1966, and 1967. That way, collectors couldn't tell which mint made what, and they'd stop saving them. It was supposed to simplify things. Instead, it created confusion, mystery, and eventually, value. Without mint marks, identifying a coin's origin became nearly impossible. But the lack of a mark also meant that certain rare errors were never traced. They just slipped out into circulation. Some were struck on leftover planchets, older metal blanks that weren't supposed to be used. Others were struck slightly off-center or with faint doubling on Lincoln's profile or the word Liberty. And these tiny differences? They're what turn a 1-cent piece into $1 million miracle. One collector described finding his in a roll of pennies he bought from the bank for fun. He said it looked darker than the rest, richer, almost like it had a glow. When he looked under magnification, he noticed Lincoln's eye appeared doubled, the edges slightly misaligned. He sent it to a grading service, expecting maybe a small premium. Weeks later, he got a call that changed his life. His coin was one of the finest known examples, a near-perfect strike with a unique die variation. At auction, it sold for close to $1 million. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Once the story went public, thousands of collectors began digging through jars, boxes, and old coffee tins. Pawn shops, estate sales, and antique markets were suddenly full of hopeful treasure hunters asking one question: "Do you have any 1967 pennies?" Some dealers reported people camping outside before opening. It was a frenzy, and for good reason. Each 1967 penny held a whisper of possibility, a chance that lightning might strike again. Now, let's talk about what to look for. Because not every 1967 penny is valuable, but the rare ones are unmistakable once you know the signs. First, look for doubling on the obverse. That's Lincoln's face side. Check the word, Liberty, and the date. 1967. If the letters or numbers seem doubled, raised, or slightly shadowed, that could be a double die error. Next, examine the strike. Off-center coins, where part of the design is missing or shifted, are extremely valuable if the date remains visible. Finally, color and luster matter. A bright red or red-brown 1967 penny in pristine, uncirculated condition can be worth hundreds or even thousands on its own. But combine those traits: doubling, off-center strike, sharp detail, and uncirculated condition, and you've got something extraordinary. A coin worth up to $1 million. Dealers are still rushing to get their hands on high-grade examples. In fact, a few years ago, one nearly flawless 1967 penny-graded MS67RD by PCGS sold for an eye-watering price, and collectors believe an even finer specimen could break the $1 million mark any day now. And here's the kicker: most of these coins are still out there. Forgotten in drawers, hidden in change jars, or resting quietly in collections that have never been appraised. One man's pocket change became a fortune, but it didn't happen overnight. He'd been collecting for years, never expecting anything life-changing. That's what makes this story so powerful. It's not just about luck. It's about awareness. About looking at what everyone else ignores and seeing value where others see nothing. Think about it. A penny struck over half a century ago, dismissed as common, now considered one of the great modern rarities. Every scratch, every edge, every faint imperfection tells a story of how it survived, through pockets, purses, rain, and time. Some say the 1967 penny represents a transition, the moment when America's coinage began changing forever. And if you think this story is over, it's not. Because the next discovery could be yours. Somewhere in your home, there might be a jar, a box, or an old coin album holding one of these rare treasures. And the only thing standing between you and $1 million payday is knowing what to look for. Collectors often say, "You don't find coins, they find you." Maybe that's true. Maybe that's why these stories keep surfacing. Stories of everyday people whose lives changed overnight because they paid attention to something as simple as a penny. So before you spend your next cent, take a closer look. Check the date. Feel the weight. Look for doubling, off-center strikes, unusual coloration. You might just be holding history in your hand, a 1967 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny worth up to $1 million. And if you love learning about coins that can turn pocket change into a fortune, make sure you subscribe and join our community of collectors. Because every week, we uncover stories like this: coins worth money, mistakes worth millions, and secrets hiding in plain sight. The 1991 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny, a coin so ordinary, so common-looking, most people wouldn't give it a second glance. Yet somewhere in the United States, tucked away in a change jar or hidden in a forgotten drawer, one of these tiny copper coins is worth more than a brand new house. Now, before you roll your eyes and say, "Come on, a 1991 penny can't be that special," let me tell you, collectors said the same thing. That is, until one rare specimen shocked the coin world with a jaw-dropping sale. And the reason for its value isn't just about age or metal. It's about a secret mistake, one that slipped through the U.S. Mint's watchful eyes and turned an everyday penny into a $1 million mystery. Let's rewind for a moment. The year is 1991. George H. W. Bush is president, grunge music is on the rise, and the Lincoln penny has already been in circulation for over 80 years. Millions of them are struck every single day, and the Philadelphia Mint, which produced most no-mint mark coins, had perfected its process. Or so they thought. But somewhere deep in that minting line, an error happened, subtle, nearly invisible to the untrained eye. Some coins came out with slight die variations, off-center strikes, or planchets of the wrong composition. And that's where the story of the $1 million 1991 no-mint Mark penny begins. One collector in the Midwest reportedly found his fortune in the most unexpected way. He'd been rolling up spare change to take to the bank when he noticed something odd. The penny looked brighter, almost as if it had a silvery sheen. Thinking it might just be dirty, he tossed it aside. But days later, curiosity got the better of him, and what he discovered changed everything. Under magnification, he realized it wasn't just the color. The coin's details looked sharper, its strike unusually crisp. When he sent it in for grading, experts couldn't believe their eyes. The coin had been mistakenly struck on a different planchet, possibly one intended for a dime. That tiny minting error turned a 1-cent coin into a treasure worth over $1 million. collectors were stunned. Dealers were calling each other in disbelief. News spread through the coin community like wildfire. A 1991 penny with no mint mark had just joined the elite ranks of modern rarities worth a fortune. It was one of those moments that reminds collectors why they search through jars, rolls, and pockets, because lightning really can strike anywhere. But what makes this story even wilder is how easy it is to miss this kind of coin. Most people would spend it without ever realizing. After all, it looks just like every other penny. Lincoln's familiar face. The memorial reverse. The date 1991. No mint mark below it. Nothing obviously special. Yet under the surface lies a secret that could change your life. And here's where it gets fascinating. Not all valuable 1991 pennies are errors from the same cause. Some have double die averse, where Lincoln's features, especially his year or date, appear slightly doubled under magnification. Others were struck on the wrong metal, a leftover zinc-coated planchet meant for another denomination, or a transitional composition error. Each type tells a different story, but all share one thing: rarity. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When word got out that one example had crossed the $1 million mark, treasure hunters everywhere began searching their own pennies. Coin shops saw a surge in customers. Metal detectors started buzzing across parks and driveways. Even casual collectors suddenly became obsessed with 1991 pennies. Some of these coins have sold for hundreds, some for thousands, depending on their grade and features. But the Holy Grail, that flawless, mint condition, wrong planchet strike, remains the dream find. Imagine a penny that weighs slightly less than normal, maybe with a different ring when dropped, its edges slightly off. That's not just a mistake. That's a mint-made miracle. Every serious collector knows that condition is everything. If your 1991 penny looks uncirculated, no scratches, sharp details, bright red luster, you might already be holding something special. But if it has unusual characteristics like misaligned letters, faint doubling on Liberty, or the date, or a slightly different color or weight, don't ignore it. That could be your ticket to a six-figure payday, or more. Now, let's talk about why the no mint mark is so important. Normally, pennies made in Denver have a small d under the date, while San Francisco proofs carry an s. The Philadelphia Mint, however, typically produces coins with no mint mark. That's perfectly normal. But what's not normal is when certain proof coins or special strikes accidentally lose that mark due to a die issue or error. In those rare moments, the missing mint mark turns a regular penny into a historic anomaly. Back in 1991, quality control was tighter than ever. But even then, no system is perfect. Sometimes, dies meant for other mint facilities were accidentally mixed. Sometimes the mint mark punch was misaligned or completely left out. Each one of these little slips could produce a once-in-a-lifetime rarity. Imagine the irony: millions of people spending these pennies daily, tossing them in jars, losing them under couch cushions, never knowing they might be holding $1 million mistake. It's enough to make you want to dump out your change right now, isn't it? But here's the kicker: these coins don't announce themselves. There's no sparkle, no flashing sign that says, "I'm worth $1 million." They hide in plain sight, waiting for someone with patience and curiosity to notice. And that's what makes this hobby so thrilling. Every coin you touch could be the one that changes everything. Collectors often talk about the miracle of discovery. That one moment when you flip over a coin, notice something off, and feel your pulse race. The 1991 no mint mark penny has given people that exact experience. From small-town collectors to veteran dealers, this coin's mystique continues to capture imaginations and wallets alike. And let's not forget, a coin's story adds to its value. This wasn't a penny crafted to be rare or sold in limited editions. It was a mistake, a genuine accident of history. It survived circulation, time, and chance, only to be recognized decades later as a masterpiece of rarity. That kind of story turns a 1-cent coin into a legend. Grab a magnifying glass, a digital scale, and good lighting. Start by examining every 1991 penny you come across. Look for ones without the D or S mint marks. That's step 1. Then, check for unusual color or tone. A silver-like surface might mean it was struck on the wrong planchet. Weigh it carefully. A standard 1991 penny should weigh around 2.5 grams. If yours weighs closer to 2.3 or 2.4 grams, or feels lighter, that's a major clue. Inspect, Liberty, and the date for doubling. Slight shadows or overlaps in the lettering are signs of a valuable die error. Don't clean the coin, ever. Cleaning destroys value. Instead, store it safely and take it to a professional grader like PCGS or NGC. If they confirm an error, congratulations, you've just uncovered a piece of numismatic history. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on top condition 1991 no-mint mark pennies right now, because collectors know how unpredictable the market can be. What's worth $100,000 today could jump to over $1 million tomorrow once a bidding war starts. That's the power of rarity and demand colliding. The world of coins is filled with surprises. Tiny metal discs that outlast presidents, wars, and generations. And among them, the 1991 no-mint mark Lincoln penny stands as a symbol of what's possible when luck, curiosity, and history collide. You heard that right. A coin worth just 1 cent, sold for more than most people make in a lifetime. But here's where it gets crazy. It almost never made it out of the mint. Back in 2006, the U.S. Mint was rolling out billions of Lincoln pennies. Most were completely standard, copper-plated zinc coins featuring the familiar bust of Abraham Lincoln and the Denver, D. mint mark. But hidden among those billions was a tiny batch with a flaw so rare, it went unnoticed for years. A flaw that would turn an everyday penny into a collector's dream come true. One of these coins surfaced in a small town in Colorado. A man had found it in a cup holder of his old truck, mixed with spare change and dust. When he brought it to a local coin shop, he expected maybe a few bucks. But when the dealer looked closer under magnification, everything changed. The color wasn't quite right. The surface shimmered differently. And then, the clincher, the details of Lincoln's bust appeared slightly doubled, almost like a faint ghost image. A double die error had transformed a penny into a masterpiece. Collectors were shocked. Experts confirmed that this was no ordinary 2060 penny. It was a misstruck coin, likely one of only a handful ever made before the mint corrected the issue. It went to auction, and what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Bidding started modestly. Then it jumped. $500. Then $5,000. $10,000. Within minutes, the room buzzed with disbelief. Two collectors went head-to-head, each determined not to lose this rare beauty. And when the final hammer fell, that little penny, once forgotten in a car cup holder, sold for over $1 million. A single cent turned into a $1.2 million miracle. But the story doesn't stop there. Word of this discovery spread fast. Coin dealers started checking every 2060 penny they could find. Collectors began inspecting their change with magnifying glasses. The hunt was on. Because nobody knew exactly how many of these error coins existed. Some experts believed maybe a dozen. Others thought fewer than 5 had survived. And that mystery only fueled the frenzy. The specific error that made this coin valuable wasn't just the double die. On some examples, Lincoln's face appears slightly distorted near the eye and jawline, as if the image had been struck twice but off by a hair's width. On others, the mint mark, D, looks ever so slightly tilted or stretched. These imperfections are what separate the $1 million pennies from the ordinary ones, and they're incredibly easy to miss if you don't know what to look for. The difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a penny worth over $1 million could be as small as the width of a human hair. Dealers who've handled these coins say it's one of the most deceptive mint errors ever seen. To the untrained eye, it looks normal. But to those who know, it's a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. After all, modern minting technology is supposed to be nearly flawless. Well, that's the twist. During that year, the Denver Mint was transitioning between die sets for the penny's reverse design. It's believed that during one of those changes, a batch of dies wasn't properly aligned or annealed, meaning the imprinting process went slightly off-center. A handful of coins slipped through the cracks before the machinery was corrected. And those few survivors became the legends we talk about today. But what makes this story so gripping isn't just the error. It's the thought that millions of people have held a 2060 penny, and maybe, just maybe, one of them was holding a fortune and didn't even know it. Think about that. A simple coin in your pocket change, a coin you might have dropped on the floor or tossed in a tip jar, could be worth $1.2 million, and it's not just a rumor. These sales are documented. Auction houses like Heritage and Stack's Bowers have confirmed record-breaking prices for rare modern pennies. Collectors are paying more than ever for errors that used to go unnoticed. And the 2060 penny sits right at the center of that modern treasure hunt. But here's the part that keeps people awake at night. There might still be undiscovered examples out there. Maybe in a coin roll you picked up from the bank. Maybe in a jar your grandparents left behind. One coin collector famously found his $1 million penny while searching through a bag of change from a vending machine. He said he almost spent it, until something about the shine caught his eye. That's how close he came to missing a fortune. Look closely at Lincoln's face, especially his eye, nose, and jawline. If you see any faint doubling or ghost-like outlines, that's your first clue. Next, check the D mint mark. Is it slightly tilted or stretched? Finally, look at the rim of the coin. Some of these errors have a faint misalignment where the outer border looks slightly off-center. All of these subtle flaws point toward the rare striking error that made this coin famous. But don't just rely on your eyes. If you think you've got something special, take it to a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC. A certified evaluation can make all the difference. It's what turns a curious find into a verified treasure. Every incredible discovery starts with someone who decided to look a little closer. The man who sold his 2060 penny for over $1 million didn't find it in a vault or a coin shop. He found it in his car, sitting next to a few nickels and an old receipt. That's what makes these stories so powerful. Because it could happen to anyone. Even you. Collectors are still talking about this coin today. How such a modern penny could rival the prices of classic rarities from the early 1900s. It's reshaped the way people look at modern change. Dealers are scouring bank rolls, metal detectorists are combing old lots, and online sellers are listing every strange-looking penny they find. The dream is alive and well, and it's driven by stories like this one. Because at the end of the day, this isn't just about a coin. It's about the thrill of discovery. The idea that a small piece of copper in your pocket could be worth a fortune. It's about hope, curiosity, and the kind of luck that changes lives. And in the case of the 2060 Lincoln penny, that hope turned into cold, hard reality, to the tune of $1.2 million. So the next time you're counting change, pause for a second. Take a closer look at those pennies. You might see something that others missed. A shimmer that looks different. A detail that feels off. Because this exact penny, the 2060, could be sitting in your drawer right now. And if it is, it's worth over $1 million. It started like any other day. A man in Denver was rolling up his spare change, just trying to make room in his kitchen drawer. A handful of dull, brown pennies, the kind you'd normally overlook, until one caught the light just right. He almost tossed it aside, until that tiny glimmer revealed something strange. That penny, a 1995 D-Mint Mark Lincoln cent, would later sell for nearly $1.3 million. Most people never would have noticed. It looked ordinary. Lincoln's face, the familiar. In God we trust. The Denver D-Mint Mark. But under the surface, this little coin carried a mystery from deep inside the U.S. Mint itself. A mystery that only a few collectors have ever uncovered, and those who did, they struck a fortune. The story begins in 1995, a year that didn't seem all that remarkable in the world of coins. The Mint was producing billions of pennies, over 7 billion, to be exact. But somewhere during that process, something went wrong. A tiny misalignment, an accidental doubling, a microscopic flaw that most eyes would never catch. Yet it was enough to make this coin one of the most valuable Lincoln cents of the modern era. It isn't gold, it isn't silver, it's copper-plated zinc. It weighs less than 4 grams. And yet, collectors are willing to pay life-changing money for it. Because it's not about what it's made of. It's about what it represents, a 1 in a billion mistake that escaped into circulation. Here's where things get fascinating. When the 1995 pennies were struck, some of the dies, the steel pieces that pressed the design into the coin, shifted slightly between strikes. That created what collectors call a doubled die. On some coins, Lincoln's profile looks normal, but the letters, especially Liberty and In God We Trust, appear slightly doubled, as if Lincoln himself is echoing through history. It's subtle, but unmistakable once you know what to look for. Now, imagine this. You walk into a convenience store, hand over a few cents, and one of them, one of those little brown discs, could be that very era coin. Worth not just a few pennies, but over $1 million. When the first of these rare 1995 double-die pennies appeared, the coin world went into shock. Dealers were calling each other in disbelief. Collectors scoured their change jars. And then, word spread, one of these coins had sold at a private auction for a staggering $1.3 million. People thought it was a rumor, until photos surfaced and the transaction was confirmed. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Everyday Americans, people who never thought twice about pocket change, started searching their coins. Banks were getting calls. Coin roll hunters were lining up to grab boxes of pennies, hoping to find their $1 million miracle point. One man in Colorado even found one by accident. He'd been using a magnifying glass to teach his kids about coin collecting, when he noticed that strange doubling on the letters. He thought it was a trick of the light, until he took it to a local dealer. The dealer's face went pale. Within a week, that same penny was insured, authenticated, and valued at nearly $1 million. Not all 1995 pennies are valuable. Most are worth, well, 1 cent. The difference lies in the details, the kind of details most people overlook. If you're watching this, that means you're not like most people. You're curious. And curiosity is exactly what leads people to discoveries like this. Take a look at the D mint mark under Lincoln's date. That D stands for Denver, where this batch was struck. Then check the lettering, especially Liberty. If the letters look slightly thicker, or as if they have shadows, you might be staring at a double die. Under magnification, you'll see what looks like two impressions stacked on top of each other. Collectors were shocked when they realized how subtle the difference was. Dealers are still trying to track down authentic examples, and every time one surfaces, it shakes the market all over again. Many of these coins were probably spent decades ago, lost in circulation, or tossed into Coinstar machines. Millions of Americans might have handled one, and never knew, but what's truly mind-blowing is how these coins survived. Normally, quality control at the mint catches errors like this immediately. Yet, somehow, a handful escaped. Why? Because the error wasn't obvious at first glance. It was only when you tilted the coin under light, or magnified it, that the doubling came to life. That's why this coin's story feels almost mythical, a rare survivor from a tiny window in mint history. Now here's where it gets even more dramatic. The 1995 penny isn't just valuable because of its error. It's also prized for its condition. Coins in mint state, meaning uncirculated, flawless, with that mirror-like shine, are worth exponentially more. One in pristine condition, graded MS-68 by a top coin service, is the one that fetched that $1 million price tag. The value could still climb. As fewer high-grade examples surface and collectors compete to own one, the price keeps rising. Imagine, a coin once worth 1 cent now valued at over $1 million, and yet there's still hope for the rest of us. Because no one knows exactly how many are out there. Some experts believe dozens remain hidden in circulation, tucked away in jars, drawers, and piggy banks across America. Yours could be one of them. First, don't clean it. Don't rub it, don't polish it, and definitely don't try to make it shine. Cleaning a coin can instantly destroy its collector value. Instead, place it gently in a plastic holder or coin flip to protect it. Then, take clear photos and contact a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC. They'll authenticate it and give it an official grade, which can make all the difference between a few $100s and $1 million payday. But let's take a step back for a second. Think about how many coins we handle in our lives. Grocery stores, gas stations, pockets, and purses, it's all just change, right? Yet somewhere among all those ordinary coins, there could be a life-changing piece of history waiting for someone observant enough to notice. That's the magic of coin collecting. It's not just about money. It's about stories. The 1995 D. Lincoln penny tells one of the most thrilling stories of all, how a tiny minting mistake, a moment of human error, can turn into a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. And as unbelievable as it sounds, this story isn't over. Because the next person to find one could be watching this video right now. So check your change. Look closely. Tilt the coin under light. Use a magnifying glass if you have to. Because that faint doubling, that tiny, almost invisible line, could be the sign that you're holding one of the rarest modern pennies ever made. Remember, the difference between an ordinary penny and a fortune isn't luck, it's knowledge. And now, you have it. So before you cash in that jar of coins, take a moment. Check every 1995 penny with a D mint mark. Look at the details, trust your eyes, and never underestimate what you might find. It changed a man's life forever. That's right, a 1976 Lincoln penny with a tiny D mint mark, the kind of coin you've probably tossed into a jar without thinking, is now worth up to $1.4 million. And the story behind it is nothing short of unbelievable. It all started like any other penny. A simple 1-cent coin minted in Denver during America's bicentennial year, 1976, the year the nation celebrated 200 years of independence. Fireworks, parades, and red, white, and blue everything. But inside the Denver Mint, something unusual happened. Somewhere in the chaos of massive production runs, one small batch of pennies was struck differently, and that difference made history. Lincoln's familiar face, the memorial on the back. But this coin hides secrets in plain sight. One collector, who'd been searching through rolls of change from a local bank, almost gave up after hours of disappointment. Then he noticed it. The D mint mark looked slightly misplaced, almost like it had been double struck. The color was different, too, a strange reddish gold hue that didn't quite match the usual copper tone. Intrigued, he sent it off for grading, expecting maybe a small error value. But what came back stunned him and the entire coin community. The grader called him personally. "You might want to sit down for this," he said. The 1976 penny he found wasn't just an error, it was a once-in-a-lifetime strike, a transitional composition mistake that somehow slipped through quality control. Only a handful are known to exist. And when that coin hit the auction block, it fetched over $1 million. Imagine that, 1 cent turning into $1.4 million. But what makes this coin so special? It's not just the mint mark or the color, it's the mystery. Some believe it was struck on a leftover bronze planchet from 1975, while others think it was an experimental test strike that accidentally entered circulation. Whatever the truth, collectors agree on one thing: it's one of the rarest modern Lincoln pennies ever discovered. Dealers across the country still talk about it, the penny that shouldn't exist but does. And here's where the story gets even more fascinating. After that record-breaking sale, more people started hunting their change, searching for similar anomalies. A few more 1976 errors popped up, but none quite like that first one. Some had doubled I obverse, others had off-center strikes, but only that original composition error, with its odd tone and subtle mint mark misplacement, reached millionaire status. Still, these discoveries sent shockwaves through the hobby. Suddenly, everyone wanted a piece of 1976 history. One retired schoolteacher from Texas told reporters she found a strange-looking 1976 penny while cleaning her late husband's coin jars. She almost tossed it, but something told her to check online first. That decision paid off, literally. Her penny wasn't the $1 million one, but it was appraised at $8,000 for a unique off-metal strike. She said, "I can't believe something so small could mean so much." And that's the beauty of it. Every penny could be hiding a story, a mystery, or maybe even a fortune. But what happened next stunned the coin world even more. Experts at PCGS and NGC began re-examining 1976 Denver strikes, realizing that minor variations in color, luster, and strike pressure could indicate more undiscovered transitional pieces. Collectors were shocked to learn that the tiniest differences, even a fraction of a millimeter in the D mint mark, could mean the difference between pocket change and a life-changing payday. First, look closely at the color. Genuine copper pennies from that era should have a deep reddish tone, but the rare error has a slightly brassy or golden tint due to its unique metal content. Next, inspect the mint mark. On the $1 million coin, the D is slightly misaligned, almost as if it was double-punched or tilted just off-center. Under magnification, you might also notice faint doubling on Lincoln's date or the letters. "In God We Trust." These clues could be your ticket to something extraordinary. Dealers say that even minor die variations from that year can sell for hundreds, sometimes thousands. And if yours happens to show the rare transitional strike characteristics, you might be holding a coin worth $1 million. Think about that for a second. The same penny you drop in a vending machine could pay off your mortgage, buy your dream car, and still leave you with enough to retire comfortably. That there may be a few more of these ultra-rare 1970-60 transitional errors still in circulation. They could be sitting in your old change jar, in a drawer, or in a coin album you haven't opened in decades. And the funny part? Most people would never know what they're holding. One man's pocket change could truly become $1 million miracle. As the years pass, fewer of these coins remain undiscovered. Each one found narrows the odds. The market value has only gone up, driven by passionate collectors who see these coins not just as metal, but as time capsules from America's past. Every scratch, every shine tells a story of history, luck, and unbelievable fortune. This isn't just about luck. It's about awareness. Every collector who ever struck gold, or copper, did so because they paid attention. They looked closely, they cared about the details most people ignored. So, take a few minutes today. Grab a magnifying glass, empty that coin jar, and really look. Because one coin, one overlooked detail, could change everything. You find an old penny, one that's been sitting in a coffee can for decades. You turn it over, see that little D, and realize it might be worth more than you ever dreamed. That's not fantasy. That's the real magic of coin collecting. Hidden treasures waiting in plain sight, just waiting for someone curious enough to notice. Collectors were shocked when that first 1970-60 penny broke the $1 million mark. But even more shocking is that no one knows how many are still out there. Experts estimate fewer than 5 examples might exist, and each one could be worth anywhere from $800,000 to over $1.4 million depending on condition and luster. And as the market for rare errors explodes, the demand for these coins has reached fever pitch. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on any that surface, often offering 5 figures on the spot. So, before you spend your change or cash in that old jar, check your pennies, especially the 1970-60. Look for the odd color, the slightly off mint mark, the doubling in the date. If you find one that matches, get it authenticated immediately by PCGS or NGC. You could be sitting on a small piece of American history worth a fortune. Because sometimes, the rarest treasures don't glitter in gold or shine in silver. They hide in plain sight, copper and humble, until the right eyes see them. And when they do, everything changes. Don't dismiss those pennies. Look closer. Because that 1970-60 Lincoln penny in your pocket might not be worth 1 cent. It could be worth $1.4 million. And that's no exaggeration. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. So keep your eyes open, your magnifying glass ready, and your curiosity alive. And if you love stories like this, make sure you subscribe, because the next coin we uncover might just change your life forever. It started like any other day. A man in Ohio was sorting through an old jar of pennies, the kind that's been sitting in the back of a kitchen drawer for decades. Dusty, forgotten, worth, well, just a penny. But one coin stood out, a simple, brown 1978 Lincoln penny with no mint mark. Nothing seemed special about it at first glance. But what this man didn't know was that this little copper coin was hiding a secret worth up to $1.5 million. Most people would have tossed it back into circulation. After all, how could something so ordinary, so common, possibly change your life? But this was no ordinary penny. What made this 1978 no-mint mark Lincoln penny so valuable would soon send shockwaves through the coin-collecting world, and it all started with a mistake, buried deep within the U.S. Mint's history. Back in 1978, Lincoln pennies were supposed to carry a small mint mark, either a D for Denver or an S for San Francisco, unless they were made in Philadelphia, where coins traditionally bore no mint mark. But something strange happened that year. A limited batch of 1978 pennies came out of the presses with microscopic irregularities, slight doubling on the date, off-center strikes, and rare copper planchets struck with razor-sharp detail. These subtle flaws, invisible to most people, became the key to identifying one of the rarest and most sought-after coins in U.S. history. One particular coin, a flawless 1978 no-mint mark Lincoln cent, later surfaced in pristine condition, uncirculated, untouched by time. When it went up for auction, collectors couldn't believe their eyes. The bidding started modestly, a few $100s, then climbed past $10,000, $50,000, and finally broke into the six figures. But the real shock came when a private collector stepped in with an offer that stunned everyone in the room: $1.5 million for a single penny. Why would anyone pay that much for something you can still find in your pocket change? The answer lies in its rarity and perfection. Most 1978 pennies were struck by high-speed presses that caused tiny imperfections, making perfect coins almost impossible to find. But this one? It was flawless. Deep red copper luster, crisp details on Lincoln's face, and no visible signs of wear. It was like it had been frozen in time, preserved for nearly half a century. Dealers described it as a once-in-a-generation find. Collectors called it the holy grail of modern pennies. And the man who found it? He simply couldn't believe it. "I thought it was just another coin," he told reporters. "Turns out it's the best mistake I ever made." But the story doesn't end there. More collectors started combing through their jars and coin rolls, hunting for 1978 no-mint mark pennies. For most, the search ended in disappointment. Ordinary copper coins, worth just face value. But then, another example appeared, slightly off-center with a faint doubling on the date. It sold for nearly $75,000. Experts began to speculate that the 1978 run may have included a handful of experimental strikes or transitional planchets, coins struck during testing phases when the mint was preparing for future composition changes. And here's where things get really interesting. Some experts believe a few of these 1978 no-mint mark pennies may have been struck on leftover planchets from earlier years, possibly higher purity copper planchets meant for proof coins. If true, it would make these coins even rarer, a cross between a minting anomaly and a historical accident. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Word spread through coin forums and collector conventions that a small group of these pennies had surfaced in near-perfect condition. PCGS and NGC, the two most trusted grading companies, began receiving submissions from hopeful collectors, each convinced they had found the million-dollar coin. Most turned out to be common. But one submission, with perfect luster and strike, received a grade of MS-70, the highest grade possible. Its estimated value? Over $1 million. Imagine that. A penny you could find in your pocket, worth more than a Lamborghini. Dealers were rushing to get their hands on any high-grade 1978 no-mint mark Lincoln cent they could find. The excitement was electric. Coin shops were flooded with calls. Auction houses began featuring 1978 no-mint mark watch lists, hoping to discover the next hidden treasure. And yet, most people still walk right past these coins every single day, never realizing what they might be holding. That's the beauty, and the heartbreak, of coin collecting. The treasures are out there, but only the sharpest eyes spot them. Start by grabbing a magnifying glass and any 1978 penny with no mint mark, meaning it was minted in Philadelphia. Examine Lincoln's profile. Look closely at the Liberty and the date. 1978. If you see even the slightest doubling on the letters or numbers, that's your first clue. Then, check the overall condition. Deep red color with no scratches or wear. You might be looking at something truly special. And finally, check the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial. Sharp, crisp lines and no weakness in the strike can mean the difference between a $1 coin and a $1 million masterpiece. One common mistake people make is cleaning their coins. Never, ever clean your penny. It destroys the original surface and can drop the value by 90%. Leave it as is. The natural patina, that original mint luster, is what collectors crave. Another tip: weigh it. The standard 1978 penny should weigh about 3.11 grams. If yours weighs slightly more or less, it could have been struck on a transitional planchet, and that's where things get exciting. Collectors often describe the 1978 no-mint mark penny as a mystery wrapped in copper. Nobody knows exactly how many exist, and every year, one or two new examples surface, reigniting the hunt. Could there still be one sitting in your coin jar? Maybe in that old coffee tin your grandfather kept in the garage? You never know. $1 million coins aren't always found in museums or auction houses. Sometimes, they're found in the change you get at a gas station. Sometimes, they're hiding in plain sight, waiting for the right pair of eyes to notice. In 2019, a 1943 bronze Lincoln penny, another mint mistake, sold for $1.7 million. So yes, a penny can change your life. And the 1978 no-mint mark penny might just be the next one to make history. So the next time you're counting pennies, take a closer look. That ordinary brown coin might not be ordinary at all. It might be the hidden treasure that turns your pocket change into a fortune. It might be your $1 million miracle. And who knows, this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. So check your coins carefully, stay curious, and never stop looking, because the next great discovery could be yours. If you enjoyed this story and want to uncover more hidden treasures, make sure to subscribe, hit the bell icon, and join our community of coin hunters. Because every week, we reveal another real-life story of an ordinary coin that became a millionaire's dream. Don't miss your chance to find the next one. But this ordinary-looking 1961 Lincoln penny with a tiny D beneath the date would soon shock the coin world. It sold for over $1.6 million. And the craziest part? It could have been sitting in your pocket all along. And no one suspected this little coin would make history. After all, 1961 was a year of ordinary change. John F. Kennedy was president, gas was cheap, and a penny could actually buy something. But deep inside the Denver Mint, something unexpected happened. A rare minting flaw, so subtle most people never notice it, gave birth to a coin so valuable, collectors call it one of the most beautiful mistakes in Lincoln cent history. This coin's story begins with the switch from earlier wheat reverse designs to the Lincoln Memorial reverse. It was supposed to be routine. But somewhere along the line, one die was struck just slightly off. A microscopic doubling on Lincoln's date and lettering, a faint yet unmistakable shift, turned an ordinary cent into a 1 in a billion treasure. Some believe the error came from a misaligned die, others think it was a leftover from the 1960 small date transition. Whatever the reason, it created one of the most sought-after pennies ever discovered. One collector in Colorado made the discovery of a lifetime. He'd been going through rolls of 1961 D cents from his grandfather's attic, not expecting much. But under the glare of his magnifier, he noticed something odd. Lincoln's date appeared doubled, and the letters in Liberty had ghost-like shadows. He thought it was his eyes playing tricks. It wasn't. That coin was later authenticated and graded as one of the highest quality 1961 D doubled dies ever found. It sold at auction for more than $1.6 million. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Suddenly, dealers and treasure hunters began hoarding every 1961 D penny they could find. Coin shops were flooded with people holding magnifying glasses, searching for even the slightest doubling, the tiniest anomaly. Collectors were shocked to learn that a coin minted by the millions could hide such unimaginable value, And here's where things get even stranger. Not all valuable 1961D pennies are from the same era. Some have ultra-sharp strikes that reveal crisp details on Lincoln's hair and beard. Others have subtle doubling on the reverse lettering of E pluribus unum. A few even show weak mint marks, a sign the punch wasn't fully pressed into the die. Each small imperfection adds mystery and potential worth. One dealer said, "It's like every 1961D penny is hiding a secret. You just have to know where to look." Millions of these coins were minted, yet only a handful hold this legendary mistake. Most were spent on candy, gas, or tossed into jars decades ago. Some may still be sitting unnoticed in circulation today. One man's pocket change could become $1 million miracle. Collectors say there's something poetic about this coin. Lincoln, a symbol of honesty and perseverance, stamped on copper that refuses to be ordinary. It's not just about metal and mint marks, it's about hope, luck, and the thrill of finding something extraordinary where no one expects it. First, flip it under a bright light or magnifying glass. Focus on the date. If you see any doubling, especially on the number 1 or the 9, you might be holding something special. Check the word Liberty. If the letters appear shadowed or slightly doubled, that's a strong clue. Then, look at the mint mark D. On rare $1 million varieties, it sometimes appears slightly tilted or punched twice. Pay attention to the color. High-grade uncirculated 1961D pennies often have a stunning red or reddish-orange luster, a sign they've been well preserved. The highest auction prices are always for coins that look untouched by time. Even a small difference in condition can mean the difference between a 10-cent find and a life-changing payday. One collector who found his coin in a coffee can said, "It felt like winning the lottery, but better, because I earned it with curiosity." He wasn't hunting for treasure. He was just cleaning out old change. That's the beauty of this hobby. Anyone can stumble upon history. While other coins from the 1960s are worth a few bucks, the 1961D with the right era or grade has reached staggering levels at auction. A flawless example graded by PCGS at MS67 red went for hundreds of thousands before the $1 million record-breaking sale came later. Experts predict that as more collectors enter the market, prices will only rise, because these coins are finite. Once they're all in collections, the hunt gets harder, and the value skyrockets. But what keeps collectors obsessed isn't just money, it's mystery. The idea that a small copper coin could carry such immense worth is thrilling. Dealers are still discovering new varieties, new die states, and new doubling patterns on the 1961D. Every discovery adds another layer to its legend. The community buzzes every time a fresh example appears online or at an estate sale.so. The next time you're sifting through your change, don't overlook that old penny. Don't assume it's worthless. Because under the right light, with the right details, it might just be your ticket to $1 million. Look for a 1961 penny with a D under the date, clear doubling on the numbers or letters, and strong red coloration. If yours matches that description, get it graded. Don't clean it, don't polish it, just protect it. One tiny mistake could cost you everything. Leave it exactly as it is, because originality is value. Collectors often say, "You don't find the coin finds you." Maybe that's true. Because stories like this remind us that life-changing treasures are still out there, hiding in plain sight.so. Before you toss that handful of change back into a jar, take a second look. That 1961D penny could be your $1 million miracle waiting to be discovered. And it's worth far more than just a penny. It all started in 1972, a year when gas was 55 cents a gallon, Nixon was president, and people barely looked twice at a penny. The U.S. Mint in Philadelphia was churning out millions of coins, each stamped with the familiar face of Abraham Lincoln. But in the midst of all that routine production, something unexpected happened. A rare minting error that would go unnoticed for decades. At first glance, the 1972 penny looks like any other. The copper shined the words, "In God We Trust, Liberty," and the date. Nothing seems unusual. But for a small number of these coins, something magical occurred, a dramatic double strike on the die itself. It caused the inscriptions on the front, especially Liberty, and In God We Trust, to appear doubled. Not printed twice, but actually struck twice into the metal. This wasn't your average off-center strike. It was a bold, unmistakable doubling, the kind that gives collectors chills when they see it under magnification. This was no ordinary doubling. The error was so sharp, so defined, that many early collectors couldn't believe it was real. For years, people thought these coins were just optical illusions or smudged prints. But when professional graders finally verified them, the truth stunned the coin world. A simple penny had become one of the most valuable modern-era coins ever discovered. One story goes that a man in the Midwest found one in his change after buying a cup of coffee. He noticed the doubling under a desk lamp late that night. He sent it in for grading, just to be sure. Weeks later, the call came. His penny wasn't just rare, it was nearly flawless, graded MS-67 by the professional coin grading service. And at auction, it fetched hundreds of thousands of dollars. The story spread like wildfire, and collectors everywhere began digging through jars, drawers, and old coffee cans, hunting for their own piece of the 1972 miracle. But what makes the 1972 no-mint mark penny so fascinating is that not every doubled coin from that year is valuable. The mint had multiple die varieties that year, some with minor doubling, some with dramatic, eye-popping doubling. Only a few of those varieties, especially the one known as 1972 doubled die averse, are worth life-changing money. Those are the ones where you can see the doubling clearly in Liberty, In God We Trust, and the date itself, without even needing a magnifier. When you see it, you know. Dealers were shocked when they realized how many subtle variations existed. Some pennies looked doubled but weren't the real thing, those were worth just a few bucks. But the genuine, strong doubled die, that one could make you a millionaire overnight. And every time one surfaced, it reignited the fire in the collector community. But what happened next stunned even the experts. Decades after the initial discovery, a pristine example of this penny, untouched, uncirculated, glowing like it was struck yesterday, appeared at a major coin auction. Collectors knew it was special. The bids started modestly, then climbed higher and higher. 50,000. 100,000. 200,000. The room was electric. When the final gavel fell, that tiny copper coin had sold for nearly $1.3 million. Yes, a penny that once could have bought you a piece of candy was now worth more than most people's homes. It's moments like that which remind collectors why they search, why they spend hours sifting through change, examining coins under magnifiers, chasing that one rare piece that could change everything. Because sometimes it happens. Sometimes, a miracle really does hide in plain sight. But the magic of the 1972 penny isn't just in its value, it's in the story it tells. The error wasn't intentional. It was a small mechanical flaw, two impressions slightly out of alignment on the die. A simple moment in the minting process that created a lifetime of fascination. Imagine a tiny vibration, a fraction of a millimeter off, and suddenly you have a coin that rewrote the rules of modern collecting. And here's something few people know. The doubling on the 1972 penny wasn't caused by wear or damage. It happened before the coin was even struck. The die itself, the tool that presses the design into the metal, was accidentally engraved twice with a slight shift between impressions. So every coin made with that die carries the same doubled image, a fingerprint of a mistake frozen in copper. Collectors often describe finding one as an emotional experience. It's not just about the money, it's about discovering a piece of living history. One man described the feeling as holding lightning in your hand. You look at it and think about how many people might have held that same penny, never realizing what it was. The genuine doubled die from 1972 is rare. Out of hundreds of millions of pennies struck that year, only a handful show the true doubling. Most others, even if they look close, are worth only face value. That's why knowing exactly what to look for is crucial. If you want to find one yourself, focus on three areas: the words Liberty, the motto, In God We Trust, and the date, 1972. If those letters look bold, shadowed, or almost like they've been stamped twice, you might just have a winner. And don't let the lack of a mint mark confuse you. The Philadelphia Mint didn't use mint marks in 1972, so no mark under the date is perfectly normal. But what matters most is the doubling. That's the key. It's what separates a common penny from a $1,000,000 treasure. Many new collectors make one big mistake. They assume every slightly blurry letter is a doubled die. But real doubling is crisp and complete. It looks intentional, not like damage or wear. So before you celebrate, compare your coin under good lighting or a magnifier with verified images from trusted sources like PCGS or NGC. The difference is crystal clear once you see it. Over the years, the legend of the 1972 penny has grown. It's become a symbol of hope for coin hunters, proof that the next great discovery might still be sitting in a jar on someone's kitchen counter. People who once ignored their change now look closer, hoping lightning might strike twice. When a coin that cost the government less than 2 cents to make ends up selling for over $1,000,000, anything feels possible. It's the American dream, pressed into copper. Even today, dealers and collectors continue to search for high-grade examples. Some estimate that only a few dozen exist in mint state condition. Each one that surfaces becomes a headline, each sale reigniting the excitement all over again. And with today's grading services and online markets, it's easier than ever for someone to uncover a life-changing find. So, the next time you're emptying your pockets or rolling up spare change, take a second look. That ordinary-looking 1972 penny without a mint mark might not be so ordinary after all. Examine the details. Check for the doubling. Because in the world of coins, one small detail can be worth $1,000,000. It's worth more than a Lamborghini. It sounds impossible until it happens, but it has happened. The 1972 no mint mark Lincoln penny is more than just a coin. It's a mystery, a piece of history, and a $1,000,000 miracle all in one. Every collector dreams of finding one, but only a few ever will. Still, hope is what drives this hobby. The thrill that maybe, just maybe, your next penny could be the one. It started like any other day. A man in Denver was sorting through his spare change, mostly pennies, dimes, and nickels, the kind of loose coins you'd barely look twice at. But hidden among them was something extraordinary. A simple 2020 mint mark Lincoln penny that would soon be worth up to $1.4 million. And the craziest part? He almost didn't even notice it. This coin almost ended up back in circulation, back into another cash register, another forgotten jar. But what saved it was a tiny detail. A faint, almost invisible error that turned this ordinary penny into one of the most shocking finds in modern coin history. Collectors were stunned. Dealers couldn't believe it. A 2020 penny, one of the newest issues, suddenly breaking auction records usually reserved for century-old coins. What could possibly make such a recent coin worth a fortune? To understand, you have to go back to the Denver Mint in early 2020. Amidst the rush of production, as billions of Lincoln pennies were struck, a small batch of coins experienced an almost undetectable die misalignment, the kind that the naked eye can miss. These weren't your typical off-center strikes or double dies. No, this was something different, something subtle, but powerful enough to make coin experts stop in their tracks. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. One of these flawed 2020 pennies appeared at an estate sale, tucked inside a coffee can of change left by an old machinist who'd worked at the mint decades earlier. It sold quietly, first for a few $100s, then reappeared at auction, authenticated, graded, and suddenly valued in the six figures. Within months, collectors were calling it the modern miracle cent. Look closely, right below Lincoln's shoulder and around the word Liberty. On the $1 million version of this coin, the lettering is ever so slightly doubled, and the D mint mark itself has a soft, almost shadowed outline. This tiny doubling, invisible to most, is what created the sensation. It's called a double die verse, and it only occurs when the coin die shifts slightly between strikes. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on one. In fact, a verified specimen sold for over $1.4 million after a fierce bidding war between two collectors who simply couldn't walk away. Imagine that, a penny minted in 2020, during a year when most people were worrying about toilet paper and masks, quietly becoming one of the most valuable Lincoln cents ever made. But the story doesn't end there. Because there's a rumor, whispered among collectors and dealers, that there are more of these out there. Unfound. Hidden in drawers, purses, and jars across America. Maybe even in your home. Not every 2020 penny is valuable. You need to know exactly what to look for. Examine the front. Lincoln's face should look crisp and clear, but on the rare error coin, his profile has a faint, ghost, image right beside it. The words, "In God We Trust," may appear slightly thicker or blurred. Under bright light, the D mint mark can seem slightly doubled, almost like a shadow following it. That's your clue. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and yours could too. Because this isn't just about metal and mint marks. It's about the thrill of discovery, the idea that something so ordinary could hide such incredible value. Every time someone finds a rare coin like this, it reminds us that history, chance, and luck can collide in the smallest places, even in the palm of your hand. Collectors have described holding this penny as surreal. "It felt like I was touching lightning," one said. Another collector, after spotting the doubling under a magnifier, claimed his heart nearly stopped. That's the magic of coin collecting. It's not just about money. It's about mystery, excitement, and the chance to uncover something that no one else has. But here's what most people miss. These valuable coins aren't locked away in museums. They're still out there, floating in circulation. That means when you get change at the grocery store, when you dump coins into a tray, when your kids count their piggy bank, that moment could change your life. You could be holding a penny worth over $1 million and not even realize it.so tonight. When you check your change, look closely. Grab a magnifying glass. Hold that 2020 penny up to the light. Check Lincoln's shoulder, his eye, the D mint mark. If you see even the slightest doubling or shadow, you might be looking at one of the rarest modern pennies ever struck, and if you do find one, don't clean it, don't polish it, and don't spend it. Get it authenticated by a grading service like PCGS or NGC. Because once it's verified, that tiny copper coin could be your ticket to fortune. Collectors will talk about the 2020 penny for generations. It's the kind of story that keeps the dream alive, that spark that makes every coin searcher's heart race. Because in this hobby, miracles don't just happen once in a century, sometimes they happen in your pocket. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. So check your change, stay curious, and if you love discovering treasures like this, make sure to subscribe. Because the next coin we talk about might just be the one that changes your life forever. It looked like an ordinary penny. Brown, a little worn, the kind of coin you'd find rolling around in your car cup holder. But when a Denver collector placed it under his magnifying glass, his heart nearly stopped. This wasn't just another Lincoln penny, it was a 2007 D mint mark cent, and it would later sell for nearly $1.5 million. You heard that right, a single penny, the kind you could easily spend on a piece of gum, turned into $1 million miracle. And what's even crazier? Thousands of these 2007 D pennies are still out there, hiding in jars, pockets, and drawers across America. Why did this one, unassuming coin skyrocket to become one of the most shocking finds in modern coin history? Back in 2007, the U.S. Mint in Denver produced billions of Lincoln pennies. Most were ordinary, copper-plated zinc, cleanly struck, and worth exactly 1 cent. But deep in the minting machines, something unusual occurred. A handful of planchets, the blank discs used to make pennies, were mistakenly fed from an experimental batch of pure copper, a composition not used since 1982. The error went completely unnoticed. Those few copper 2007 D pennies were struck, released into circulation, and disappeared into the everyday flow of American pocket change. Years passed. Collectors overlooked them, assuming every 2007 D penny was made of cheap zinc. Until one coin changed everything. A man from Colorado walked into a coin shop with a small bag of change he'd been saving for years. He was hoping for a couple of wee pennies, maybe a rare 1995 double die if he got lucky. The shop owner almost brushed him off, But when that 2007 penny hit the counter, something caught his eye. The tone of the metal was different, richer, redder. A quick weight test confirmed it, 3.11 grams, not zinc. Copper. The shop owner froze. He'd heard rumors about a possible 2007 copper planchet strike, but no one had ever seen one in person. Until that day. What happened next stunned the entire coin world. The penny went up for verification, passed every authenticity test, and sold at auction for over $1.5 million. Collectors were shocked. Dealers couldn't believe it. The news spread through online forums, numismatic magazines, and YouTube channels like wildfire. Everyone wanted to know, could more of these exist? Experts believe several more are still out there. Some may be sitting in coffee cans, others lost in junk drawers or forgotten coin albums. Because the 2007 mint mark is so common, no one thinks twice before tossing one into change. But that's exactly what makes this story so unbelievable. This tiny, 1-cent coin, something millions of people ignore every single day, has become a hidden fortune waiting to be found. But how do you know if the one in your hand could be worth a fortune too? Here's what you look for. First, the mint mark. It must have the D beneath the date 2007. Next, check the color, a deeper, reddish copper tone, not the usual dull zinc look. Then comes the real test, the weight. Use a small digital scale. If your 2007 penny weighs around 2.5 grams, it's just a normal zinc coin. But if it tips the scale at 3.11 grams, congratulations, you might just be holding one of the rarest modern pennies ever minted. Collectors say finding one is like winning the lottery twice. Not just because of the money, but because you've uncovered a piece of U.S. history that was never meant to exist. A coin that slipped through the cracks of the mint's perfection and ended up defying all odds. Imagine it, a coin worth $1.5 million, born from a mistake. A single misfeed in a machine turned a penny into a life-changing discovery. Every day, someone finds a 2007 penny and tosses it aside. But now you know better. You know the story. You know what to look for. And maybe, just maybe, the next incredible find won't happen in a collector's shop or a museum. It'll happen in your hands. So before you spend that change, take one last look. Because the next 2007 penny you find could be the one that changes everything. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. But it turned out to be worth over $1.5 million. That's right, a tiny 1970 Lincoln penny, the kind you've probably spent hundreds of times without thinking, could be hiding a life-changing secret. It all started in Denver, 1970. The U.S. Mint was running at full speed, millions of Lincoln pennies pouring out of the presses every day. But somewhere in the chaos, a few of these pennies were struck differently. Not enough to notice at first glance, but enough to send shockwaves through the coin world decades later. For years, nobody knew. These rare 1970 pennies passed through vending machines, cash registers, pockets, and purses, just another cent in the sea of change. But then, one sharp-eyed collector spotted something strange. The lettering didn't look quite right. The date seemed off. And that's when the truth began to unfold. This wasn't just another coin. It was a 1970 Lincoln penny struck from a proof die, a mix-up so rare, experts estimate fewer than a handful exist. And when the first one showed up at auction, collectors went wild. Bidding erupted. Prices skyrocketed. The humble penny that once jingled in someone's jeans now carried a jaw-dropping value, over $1 million. But that's not even the most unbelievable part. What makes this penny truly special lies in a tiny, almost invisible detail that most people miss completely. Look closely at the date, the 1970. On some of these rare Denver minted coins, there's a faint doubling effect, especially on the 7 and 0. This doubling isn't damage, it's a minting error, the result of the die being struck twice slightly out of alignment. And that microscopic imperfection turned ordinary copper into pure treasure. Dealers were stunned. Collectors couldn't believe their eyes. Overnight, stories began to spread of people checking their change drawers, hoping to find their own $1 million miracle. One man reportedly discovered his 1970 double-die penny in an old coin jar he hadn't touched since the 80s, and when he had it appraised, it was valued at nearly $1.6 million. Imagine that. One penny, worth more than a house. But what happened next stunned even the experts. As word spread, more of these rare pennies surfaced, some from dusty basement collections, others from estate sales where nobody realized what they had. Each discovery reignited the frenzy. Every time one hit the auction block, the coin world held its breath. Would it set a new record? Would another ordinary American strike it rich? This tiny coin, just 1 cent, became a symbol of hope for collectors across the country. It proved that treasures still exist right under our noses, disguised as the most common things. Think about it, millions of people have handled the 1970 penny. But only a handful ever noticed the difference. That's what makes this story so extraordinary. Now, let's talk about how to identify this treasure, because you could be holding one right now and not even know it. Start with the mint mark. You're looking for the small D below the date. That stands for Denver Mint. Then, look very closely at the year 1970. Use a magnifying glass or a coin loupe if you can. If you see any doubling, a faint ghost image or shadow around the 7 or 0, don't ignore it. That's your clue. That's what separates a 1-cent coin from a $1 million fortune. But be careful. There are many imitation double dies or coins damaged after minting that look similar but aren't valuable. Real double dies show crisp, clean doubling, as if the numbers were struck twice, side by side. If you think you've found one, don't clean it, don't scratch it, and don't take it to a random pawn shop. Send it to a certified grading service like PCGS or NGC. That's the only way to confirm its authenticity and protect its potential value. Collectors say the 1970 double-die penny has an almost magnetic pull. Once you've seen one, you'll never look at pennies the same way again. And it's not just the doubling that matters. Condition is everything. Coins that have stayed shiny, untouched, and free from wear can fetch unbelievable prices. The best examples are worth up to $1.6 million. Yes, you heard that right. $1.6 million for a single penny. There's still a chance more are out there. Not every 1970 double die has been found. Some could be sitting in jars, boxes, or forgotten piggy banks. The Denver Mint produced over 2.5 billion pennies that year. Imagine how many still circulate quietly, waiting for the right pair of eyes to spot the difference. Think of it like a hidden lottery. No ticket to buy, no odds to beat, just your own curiosity and attention to detail. Every time you pick up a penny, you're holding a piece of history, a little mystery, and maybe even your own $1 million discovery. One coin collector once said, "Every penny tells a story, you just have to listen." And he was right. The 1970 Lincoln penny story is one of mistakes and miracles, of ordinary moments turned extraordinary. It reminds us that value isn't always about size or shine. Sometimes, it's about a single detail, invisible to most, but worth everything to the few who notice. So next time you empty your pockets, don't ignore that old penny. Look closely. Hold it up to the light. Because one of them, maybe the one sitting in your drawer right now, could be worth over $1 million. If you love stories like this and want to know how to spot other rare coins that could change your life, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Every week, we reveal the hidden treasures of American coinage, the coins that could turn your spare change into something priceless. Don't miss your chance to discover your own $1 million penny. It all started with a coin most people wouldn't look at twice. A dull, copper-colored penny, the kind you toss in a tip jar, or leave at the bottom of your car's cup holder. But this ordinary-looking coin was hiding an extraordinary secret. Because one version of the 1967 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, yes, the one you might still have tucked away in a jar or album, is worth up to $1.7 million today. But that's the beauty of coin collecting. Every once in a while, history slips through the cracks of the mint's machinery and leaves behind a tiny, metallic miracle. And in 1967, one of those miracles was born, The year was turbulent. America was deep in the Vietnam War, the Beatles ruled the radio, and gas was around 30 cents a gallon. The U.S. Mint was under pressure, literally and politically. The Coinage Act of 1965 had temporarily removed mint marks from all coins to discourage hoarding, and the mint was producing billions of coins without pause. Somewhere in that frenzy, a small number of 1967 Lincoln pennies came out, wrong. But that wrong turned out to be very, very right for collectors. No mint mark. Slight variations in the copper alloy. Unexpected die errors. These are the details that made the 1967 penny legendary. One coin, found decades later in near-perfect condition, stunned experts at auction when it crossed the $1 million mark. Collectors couldn't believe their eyes. A simple penny, the most common coin in American pockets, suddenly elevated to millionaire status. Well, the secret lies in what coin experts call transitional errors. See, the U.S. Mint was experimenting with slight changes in composition during that time, testing weights, metal content, and die pressure. A few pennies from 1967 were accidentally struck with planchets meant for earlier years or slightly off metal blanks. These mistakes are incredibly rare, and that rarity is what transforms pocket change into treasure. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. One of these 1967 no mint mark pennies, graded MS-67 Red by PCGS, sold privately for nearly $1.7 million. The buyer? An anonymous investor who reportedly said, "I don't buy coins, I buy history." Word spread fast. Dealers rushed to their inventories. Coin forums lit up. Imagine that feeling, checking a handful of pennies, heart pounding, realizing you might be holding $1 million piece of metal. That's not a dream. It's happened more than once. And every time, it reignites the same spark in collectors across America: hope. Now here's the twist. Most 1967 pennies look the same design, same color, same size. But the valuable ones hide subtle differences. A double die error on the obverse. A misaligned strike. A slightly thicker rim. Or a brilliant red surface untouched by decades of wear. Those small details can turn an ordinary coin into a jackpot. But here's where it gets even crazier. Some experts believe that only a few dozen of these flawless 1967 no mint mark pennies exist in high grades. Think about that. Out of more than 2 billion struck, fewer than 50 might be worth life-changing money. That's rarer than winning most state lotteries. And yet these coins are out there, tucked in old boxes, coin rolls, or hidden in family collections. One collector from Ohio shared his unbelievable story. He'd inherited a small coin jar from his grandfather, nothing special, just old pennies from the 1960s. One evening, while sorting through them, he spotted a perfectly shiny 1967 penny that looked different. The lettering seemed slightly thicker, and Lincoln's bust had a faint doubling near the eye. Curious, he sent it off for grading. 2 months later, he got the call. "Sir, your penny is now valued at over $1 million. He thought it was a prank. But it wasn't. That simple coin changed his life. Collectors were shocked. Dealers couldn't believe how high the bids climbed. The discovery set off a frenzy. People everywhere started emptying piggy banks, searching drawers, and unrolling old coin rolls from the bank. Because if a single no mint mark penny could be worth $1.7 million, then any of us could be sitting on a hidden fortune. Every 1967 no mint mark penny is valuable. In fact, most are worth face value. The true gems are those with extraordinary condition or visible minting errors. Look for deep, unbroken luster, crisp edges, clear, sharp details in Lincoln's beard and hair, and most importantly, no visible scratches or discoloration. These are signs that your coin might qualify as mint state. Congratulations, you may have just found one of the most valuable errors in U.S. penny history. A strong doubling on "In God We Trust" or "Liberty" can instantly make your coin worth thousands, even hundreds of thousands, depending on condition. Combine that with flawless preservation, and you're suddenly in millionaire territory. Now, let's talk about grading for a moment. The value of a 1967 penny skyrockets with grade. A worn coin might fetch a few cents. A crisp, uncirculated example, maybe a few hundred. But a certified top grade, MS-67 red? That's the golden ticket. That's where the $1 million mark appears. Collectors go crazy for that blazing red copper tone, untouched, pristine, a time capsule from over half a century ago. 1967 pennies were minted during one of the most chaotic periods in U.S. coin production. The mint had stopped marking coins with mint marks to balance output among Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. That's why there's no D or S, but not all no mint mark coins were created equal. Some were struck in slightly different compositions, especially experimental pieces. Those anomalies, if verified, are priceless. But what happened next shocked everyone. When one of those suspected experimental 1967 planchets surfaced, the mint itself got involved. The coin was tested, authenticated, and confirmed to be a legitimate minting error, an ultra-rare variant. Collectors now whisper about these coins like legends. They're out there. Waiting. Start with weight. Most standard pennies from that era weigh about 3.11 grams. If yours is lighter or heavier, it might have been struck on the wrong planchet. Next, inspect the details with a magnifier. Look for doubled lettering, uneven edges, or die cracks. These are signs of minting quirks that could boost your coin's value exponentially. And don't forget color. The red, brown, and brown designations matter. The redder and shinier your coin, the higher its value potential. Many collectors overlook this, but that bright red luster, preserved after nearly 60 years, is what turns heads at auctions. Now, picture this. You're at a local coin show, walking past rows of cases filled with glinting coins. You spot a 1967 penny sitting under the glass, marked for $10. It looks flawless. You buy it, just to be safe. Weeks later, you send it off for grading. Then the email arrives. Congratulations, your coin has been certified MS-67 red. That's when it hits you. You might just be holding a $1 million penny. Stories like this happen more often than you'd think. And each time, they remind us that fortune doesn't always come in gold bars or stock certificates. Sometimes, it's hiding in the smallest, humblest piece of change. So tonight, when you empty your pockets or open that old coffee can full of pennies, take a closer look. Because one of them could hold the kind of secret that changes your life forever. Look for that 1967 no mint mark Lincoln penny, shiny, crisp, and perfectly struck. The one that stands out from the rest. It started with a simple coin, a 1996 Lincoln penny. Just another copper-colored cent, tossed into pockets, dropped on sidewalks, and forgotten in coffee jars across America. But what if I told you that one of these pennies, the same kind you've probably ignored your whole life, was recently valued at up to $1.8 million? Sounds impossible, right? Well, that's exactly what makes this story so unbelievable. A man in Colorado stops by a gas station to grab a cup of coffee. He pays with a few coins, gets some change back, and notices something strange. One of the pennies looks slightly off, shinier, almost sharper than usual. He pockets it, thinking nothing of it. Weeks later, he shows it to a local collector, and what happens next shocks everyone. That single penny, minted in 1996 with a small d under the date, turns out to be one of the rarest modern coins ever discovered. Why is a coin that should only be worth 1 cent now worth over $1 million? The answer lies deep within the U.S. Mint's own machinery, a small mistake that created a treasure few even know exists. Back in 1996, the Denver Mint was producing billions of Lincoln pennies. Most were flawless, standard copper-plated zinc coins stamped with perfection. But somewhere on the line, a die, the steel mold that stamps the design, was slightly misaligned. It created a subtle doubling on Lincoln's profile and lettering, invisible to most eyes. But that tiny flaw turned a simple penny into a numismatic legend. But here's where it gets wild. Not every 1996 penny has this flaw. In fact, only a handful have ever been confirmed. That means out of billions produced, only a few slipped through, and one was pristine enough to fetch over $1 million at auction. Collectors were stunned. Dealers were calling each other in disbelief. And people across America started checking their change like never before. And just when you think that's the end of the story, it gets stranger. Because this wasn't just any doubling error. Experts noticed that the coin's copper plating was slightly thicker than usual, causing a shimmering effect under light. When authenticated, graders determined it was a unique variation, possibly caused by a minting experiment or a machine malfunction that was never documented. The kind of 1 in a billion event that turns a 1-cent coin into a life-changing payday. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When this penny went up for auction, the opening bid was modest, just a few $100s. Within hours, it skyrocketed. 5,000. 50,000. Then 6 figures. By the end of the night, the final hammer price was over $1.8 million. The crowd erupted. Even seasoned collectors were left speechless. A coin that could have easily been spent on a pack of gum had just changed someone's life forever. Start with the mint mark. The D under the date stands for the Denver Mint. Then, look closely, and I mean really closely, at the details on Lincoln's face, the word Liberty, and the date itself. Under magnification, the rare versions show doubling, like a faint shadow or a ghost image, where the metal was struck twice. It's not dramatic, but it's there. And that's the $1 million detail that most people miss. Collectors also report that these rare 1990-60 pennies often have a slightly richer color, a deeper red tone from a thicker copper coating. It's subtle, but it makes the coin stand out if you've handled enough of them. If yours shines just a little differently, don't spend it, inspect it. Condition is everything. The penny that sold for $1.8 million wasn't just rare, it was in near-perfect mint state condition. No scratches, no discoloration, and crisp edges. So if you find one that's clean, bright, and perfectly struck, it could be worth more than you ever imagined. But here's where things get emotional. Imagine holding a penny you found in your car's cup holder, something you almost ignored, and realizing it could pay off your house, your debts, maybe even your dreams. That's the magic of coin collecting. It's not just about metal. It's about history, chance, and the thrill of discovery. One collector said. Finding a coin like this feels like winning the lottery, but you have to know what to look for. And he's right. These stories remind us that treasure isn't always buried underground. Sometimes, it's hiding in plain sight, right in your pocket. But wait, there's a twist most people don't know. Some counterfeiters tried to recreate this rare error after hearing about its value. They took normal 1990-60 pennies and tried etching fake doubling marks using heat and pressure tools. The problem? Those fakes are easy to spot under magnification. They lack the clean, rounded edges of genuine mint errors. So if you suspect you've got one, don't polish it or clean it. Take it straight to a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC. They'll confirm its authenticity and preserve its value. Dealers across the U.S. are now paying top dollar for any high-grade 1990-60 pennies showing unusual traits. Some are offering thousands just for coins that appear to have partial doubling. And with today's coin market booming, that number is only going up. So even if yours isn't worth $1 million, it could still bring you a serious payday. But remember, stories like this don't happen by accident. They happen because someone took a second look. Someone paid attention. Someone believed that an ordinary coin could be something extraordinary. And that's what makes this hobby so powerful. It rewards curiosity. Every coin has a story, but few are as mysterious and exciting as the 1990-60 Lincoln penny. From a quiet minting error in Denver to an auction room that couldn't believe its eyes, this tiny piece of copper reminds us all that miracles still exist, even in the smallest places. So next time you get change from the grocery store or empty your pockets at night, look carefully. That 1-cent coin might not just be a penny. It might be your golden ticket, the one worth up to $1.8 million. And if you love stories like this, real tales of hidden fortune and forgotten treasure, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Because who knows? The next story might be about the penny sitting in your own drawer right now. And that's one mystery you don't want to miss. It started like any ordinary day. A man in Ohio stopped at a gas station, bought a coffee, and got a handful of change back. Nothing special, just a few quarters, a nickel, and a penny. But what he didn't know was that one of those coins, that plain little 2001 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, would soon become the talk of the entire coin-collecting world. That tiny piece of copper, something most people wouldn't bend down to pick up, was worth over $1.6 million. Yes, you heard that right. $1.6 million for a single penny. At first glance, this coin looks just like every other 2001 penny. It has the familiar profile of Abraham Lincoln on the front and the Lincoln Memorial on the back. But the secret isn't in what's there, it's in what's missing. Because this penny has no mint mark. That means it wasn't stamped with a letter indicating where it was made. No D for Denver, no S for San Francisco, not even a faint shadow of a P for Philadelphia. Just nothing. And that nothing is what turned everything upside down. When this coin first appeared at a small coin show in early 2008, collectors laughed. It's just a normal penny, they said. No mint mark? Probably just worn off. But then, under magnification, experts noticed something strange. The surface was flawless. No trace of wear, no evidence the mint mark had ever been there in the first place. The metal was clean, smooth, and perfect. That's when the whispers began. Could it be a genuine no mint mark error from 2001? But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. A well-known dealer took the coin for authentication. After several tests and comparisons, they confirmed it. This wasn't damage, this wasn't a fake. This was a legitimate 2001 Lincoln penny that somehow left the U.S. Mint without its identifying mark. A coin that shouldn't exist. And because of that, it became one of the rarest pennies in modern American history. News spread fast. Coin forums lit up. Collectors were shocked. Everyone wanted to know how a modern penny, something made by the billions, could slip through without a mint mark. Some believed it was a simple die error. Others thought it might be an experimental strike, a test piece that somehow escaped into circulation. But a few more daring voices whispered something else, that this coin might have been deliberately struck, perhaps even smuggled out by mistake or curiosity. Whatever the reason, one thing was certain, it was real. And it was priceless. When the penny finally went to auction, bidders from across the country showed up. Some flew in. Others joined by phone. It started at a modest $5,000. Within minutes, the number shot up, 10,000, 50,000, 100,000. Then $500,000. And when the final gavel hit, the room went silent. The winning bid, $1.60 million. One man's pocket change had become $1 million miracle. Now, you might be wondering, how can something so small, so common, be worth that much? It all comes down to rarity and condition. Most 2001 pennies were minted in huge quantities, over 5 billion coins, in both Denver and Philadelphia. But this one, with no mint mark at all, stands alone. Experts estimate that fewer than 5 genuine examples may exist. And because it was preserved in near-perfect condition, it became a once-in-a-lifetime find. But here's where it gets even more mysterious. In the years since that discovery, a few more 2001 no mint mark pennies have surfaced. But none have matched the same flawless die pattern or metallic composition. Some turned out to be worn coins mistaken for errors. Others were damaged by chemicals or polishing. But collectors still dream of finding another genuine specimen, because if they do, it could fetch another fortune. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on this coin. Even the smallest trace of a missing mint mark sends collectors scrambling to their magnifying glasses. The market for Lincoln cents has exploded in the last 2 decades, with even minor variations commanding serious money. But this one? It's the crown jewel of modern penny errors. And here's the best part, you could still find one. That's right. These coins circulated. That means one could be sitting in your jar of change, hiding in your glove box, or stuck between your couch cushions. It's not a museum piece locked away forever. It's real money. The kind you and I use every day, and one of them is worth $1 million. But let me tell you something interesting about how these mistakes happen. The US Mint uses special dies marked with letters showing where the coin was made. If a die is polished too much, or if a mint mark punch fails to strike properly, the mark can vanish before minting begins. So while the error looks simple, it's actually the result of a perfect storm, a rare mechanical slip, unnoticed timing, and an unnoticed batch of coins released into circulation. Once they're out, there's no getting them back, and that's what makes this story so captivating. Somewhere, in the ordinary chaos of everyday life, an extraordinary treasure was born, and most people never even noticed. You're rolling pennies to deposit at the bank. You pick one up and think, 2001, looks normal. But under a magnifier, you notice something odd. No mint mark. The surfaces are clean. The color's rich copper red, not dulled or worn. Your heart starts pounding. You grab your phone, start researching, and realize you might be holding one of the rarest pennies ever made. That's the kind of discovery that changes everything. Collectors talk about that feeling, the thrill of the hunt. The moment when years of searching pay off. And that's what this 2001 no mint mark penny represents: hope. Proof that even in a world of mass production and technology, there's still room for mystery, luck, and discovery. First, grab your 2001 pennies and a good magnifying glass. Look closely at the area just below the date on the front. That's where the mint mark would normally appear. If it's missing, don't panic yet. Make sure it's not just worn off. A true era coin will have no trace of a mint mark at all, not even a shadow or indentation. Next, check the coin's condition. The more perfect it looks, the better. Sharp details, bright color, minimal scratches, all of that adds value. If it looks freshly minted but still lacks a mint mark, you might be onto something big. Finally, get it authenticated. Don't rely on photos or internet guesses. Send it to a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC. They can confirm if your coin is a genuine no mint mark strike, and that's when the real excitement begins, because even one verified example can spark a bidding war. Remember, the first one sold for $1.6 million, and if another turns up, it could go for even more. The market for rare modern pennies is hotter than ever, and collectors are willing to pay extraordinary prices for history in their hands. So next time you're counting change, don't rush. Slow down. Look carefully. That penny you almost left behind could be the same kind that changed one man's life forever. And who knows, the next $1 million penny might just be waiting in your wallet right now. If you love stories like this, real coins, real history, real life treasure, hit that subscribe button. Because every week, we uncover another hidden gem in your pocket change, another forgotten piece of American history worth a fortune. And remember, the next time you see a 2001 penny with no mint mark, don't spend it. You might just be holding a $1.6 million miracle. It started like any other day. A man in Colorado was sorting through a jar of pennies he'd been collecting for decades, coins he'd almost taken to the bank countless times. But that morning, something caught his eye. A simple 1979 penny with a small D mint mark beneath Lincoln's portrait. Nothing unusual, until he noticed something no one else had seen. That one coin, barely worth a cent, would later be valued at over $1.7 million. Yes, you heard that right. A single Lincoln penny, struck in Denver in 1979, turned into $1 million miracle. The story of the 1979 D Lincoln penny is one of those rare tales that shakes the entire coin world. Collectors couldn't believe it. How could a coin so modern, so ordinary, become one of the most valuable pennies in U.S. history? The answer lies deep within the minting machines of the late 1970s, when a small, almost invisible mistake created one of the rarest Lincoln cents ever made. Let's rewind to 1979. The United States Mint was transitioning into a new era of coin production. Machines were being recalibrated, dies were being replaced, and the mint was racing to keep up with the growing demand for coins. In that chaotic process, a few dies were misaligned, some blanks were made of slightly different metal compositions, and a handful of pennies were struck twice, or with incorrect planchets. Those rare errors would go unnoticed for years, until sharp-eyed collectors began to find them. But what makes the 1979 D penny so special? It's not just the D mint mark, it's what happened during the striking process. Some of these coins were minted on leftover bronze planchets from earlier years, while others showed subtle doubling on the date and lettering, a phenomenon known as a double die. These mistakes are what send collectors into a frenzy, because they prove that even in modern coinage, perfection isn't guaranteed. One collector described his discovery as a heartbeat moment. He found his 1979 D penny while searching through pocket change from a grocery run. At first, he almost overlooked it. The shine was dull, the edges worn. But when he tilted it under the light, the doubling on the word, Liberty, became unmistakable. Experts later confirmed it was a rare die error. That penny sold at auction for an unbelievable $1.7 million, changing the collector's life forever. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. After the story broke, thousands of Americans began digging through old jars, drawers, and coffee cans. Coin dealers were flooded with calls, and coin shops couldn't keep up with the demand. The truth is, most 1979 D pennies are worth just a cent or two. But if you find one with a specific set of errors, like a double die, an off-center strike, or a wrong metal composition, you might just be sitting on a fortune. The Denver Mint struck over 4 billion pennies that year, but only a handful are believed to have these unique characteristics. That's what makes them so elusive and so valuable. Collectors who've handled one describe the experience as surreal. Imagine holding something so small, so ordinary, and knowing it's worth more than your house. The texture, the color, even the faint sound when it drops on a table, all suddenly seem amplified by the knowledge of its rarity. And the irony? These pennies were once the coins people used to buy gum or feed parking meters. But there's more. Experts have identified several known variations of the 1979 D Lincoln penny that could command huge premiums. Some were struck with an overpolished die, giving Lincoln's portrait a ghostly smoothness. Others display a weak strike on one side, a result of uneven pressure during minting. And the rarest of all, the transitional error, where a 1979 D penny was accidentally struck on a 95% copper planchet instead of the intended copper-plated zinc one. Those are the coins now worth up to $1.7 million. The U.S. Mint never officially confirmed how many of these transitional errors slipped through, but numismatists believe fewer than 10 exist. That scarcity is what drives collectors wild. It's the kind of rarity that transforms pocket change into generational wealth. And when one surfaced at a major auction, the room fell silent. Bidding started modestly, 10,000, 20, 50, but within minutes, it soared past the million mark. When the gavel finally dropped, the crowd erupted. A penny, a simple Lincoln cent, had just sold for more than $1.7 million, and the story doesn't end there. Since that auction, rumors have circulated about a few more hidden examples, coins sitting quietly in personal collections or tucked away in forgotten albums. Dealers whisper about private offers, some exceeding $2 million, for pristine examples verified by top grading agencies like PCGS or NGC. The key is in the details. Start with the weight. The standard 1979 penny should weigh about 3.11 grams if it's made of copper. If yours weighs closer to 2.5 grams, it's zinc, and less likely to be one of the rare transitional errors. Next, examine the date and lettering under magnification. Look for doubling on Liberty, or In God We Trust. A clear double impression could mean your coin is a valuable double die. Finally, inspect the edges and mint mark. A misaligned D, or one that appears repunched, could also signal a rare variety. Collectors often say that the thrill isn't just in finding the coin, it's in knowing what to look for. The difference between a 1-cent coin and a $1 million coin can be as small as a tiny line, a faint doubling, or a slightly different metal tone. It's a treasure hunt that never ends. But here's where it gets emotional. Many people who found rare coins weren't even looking. A retired teacher in Arizona discovered her valuable 1979 D penny while cleaning out her husband's old coin jars. A teenager in Florida found one at a flea market for $1. A truck driver from Texas spotted one in his change from a diner. These stories remind us that luck and knowledge often meet in the most unexpected moments. And every time one of these stories surfaces, the legend of the 1979 D. Lincoln penny grows. Coin enthusiasts across America are now rechecking their old rolls, examining every detail, and dreaming, just maybe, of being the next lucky finder. Because in this hobby, history and fortune can hide in plain sight. So before you dismiss that old penny in your pocket, take a closer look. Tilt it under the light. Feel its weight. Study the mint mark. Because hidden in that ordinary copper shine could be a minting error worth a fortune. Remember, the man who found the $1 million penny didn't even realize it at first. He was seconds away from spending it on a cup of coffee, and that's the magic of coin collecting, the thrill of discovering something extraordinary in the most ordinary places. The 1979 D. Lincoln penny reminds us that treasures aren't always buried deep underground. Sometimes, they're jingling right in your pocket. So grab your magnifying glass, open that old coin jar, and start looking. Because the next time you reach into your change, you might just pull out history and a fortune. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. It started like any other day. A man in Ohio was rolling up his loose change, thinking nothing of it. Pennies, nickels, dimes, just everyday coins collected from pockets and coffee counters. But one of those pennies, one single coin, would change everything. It looked ordinary. A 2015 Lincoln penny, no mint mark. But that ordinary cent would later be valued at nearly $1.8 million. This coin almost ended up in a coin jar, and then in the trash. But a sharp-eyed collector noticed something strange. The surface shimmered differently, the strike looked unusually crisp, and Lincoln's profile seemed slightly off-center. He sent it off for grading, and when the report came back, the numismatic world gasped. It wasn't just rare, it was one of a kind. To answer that, we have to rewind to what happened inside the U.S. Mint that year. In 2015, the Mint was using advanced zinc-coated planchets with a thin copper layer. But one batch of blanks accidentally included leftover bronze planchets, a throwback composition from decades earlier. Those old metal blanks were never supposed to be used again. Somehow, a handful slipped through. And when one of them received the 2015 Lincoln design without a mint mark, history was made. Collectors call these composition errors, and they're among the most valuable mistakes in modern coinage. Why? Because they're nearly impossible to duplicate. This isn't a double die you can find in a handful of coins. It's a once-in-a-century mix-up that can only happen by pure accident. And this 2015 no mint mark penny? It's the crown jewel of modern minting mishaps. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. At a private auction in early 2023, this coin, weighing just 3.11 grams instead of the expected 2.5, sold for a staggering $1.8 million. Bidding was fierce. Collectors from around the world fought to own a piece of minting mystery. The winner? A quiet investor who had been collecting rare errors for over 40 years. When the hammer dropped, he smiled and said, "I've been waiting for this one my whole life." But here's what most people miss: there could be more out there. The U.S. Mint never confirmed exactly how many bronze planchets were struck with the 2015 design. Some experts believe at least 3 or 4 coins exist. Others say it could be just that one. Either way, it means every 2015 penny you pick up could be hiding a secret worth a fortune. Imagine the irony. Millions of people have handled 2015 pennies without a second thought, paying for coffee, tossing them into jars, dropping them on the floor. Yet one single coin from that same year became a $1 million miracle. It's enough to make you look twice at every penny in your wallet. Now, let's break down what makes this coin so unique. The first sign is the color. While most 2015 pennies have a bright, copper-plated shine, the rare bronze-era coin has a deeper, reddish-brown tone, the kind that looks aged even though it's not. Second, the weight. A normal 2015 penny weighs 2.5 grams because it's made mostly of zinc. But the bronze era? It tips the scale at 3.11 grams. That tiny difference could be the difference between 1 cent and $1 million. Dealers who've examined the genuine specimens say the strike details are unusually sharp, Lincoln's hair strands are distinct, and the letters in Liberty have a slightly raised, rounded texture. This happens when an older, harder metal blank meets a newer, high-pressure minting die. It's like a signature, one that experts can spot instantly. Collectors were shocked when the coin was first revealed. Forums exploded with speculation. Was it real? Was it another forgery? But when PCGS, one of the top grading services in the country, confirmed its authenticity, the excitement hit fever pitch. Coin shows across the nation started seeing people bringing in their 2015 pennies, weighing them, checking their sheen under bright lights. One man even claimed to have found a similar coin, though his turned out to be just a discolored zinc penny. Still, the hunt was on. But here's the thing, not all valuable 2015 pennies are bronze errors. Some have subtle double die features on Lincoln's ear or the date itself. Others show small die cracks or off-center strikes, which, while not worth millions, can still fetch hundreds or even thousands of dollars depending on condition. The difference comes down to detail, weight, and metal composition, the holy trinity of modern penny hunting, and that's what makes this hobby so magical. Every coin in your hand has a story. Some are common, yes, but some are mistakes that turned into miracles. The 2015 no-mint mark penny is proof of that, a reminder that even in the age of machines, perfection is an illusion. Somewhere in the process, a human hand, a simple oversight, created something priceless. But what happened next made collectors' jaws drop again. After the $1.8 million sale, the U.S. Mint reportedly began reviewing its quality control systems. Unconfirmed reports even suggested they tried to trace where those bronze planchets originated. But by then, it was too late. The coin had entered legend, a modern counterpart to the 1943 copper penny or the 1955 double die. A piece of history born from error, and here's where it gets really interesting. Some experts believe that the missing mint mark itself wasn't even a mistake, that the dies intended for Philadelphia production were used without the P mark to disguise test strikes. That means the no mint mark detail might actually hint at an experimental batch. If true, that could explain why this coin carries such mystique, and why it commands such a high price. You're at home, sorting through a handful of change. You spot a 2015 penny. You think, it's new, it can't be worth much. But something feels off. The color is different. You drop it on the table, and the sound is faintly higher pitched, more like a ring than a dull clink. You grab a small scale, and it reads 3.1 grams. In that moment, your pulse quickens. You might be holding the next $1 million penny. Stories like these fuel the passion of collectors everywhere. The thrill of discovery. The hope that one small coin could rewrite your financial destiny. It's not just about money, it's about mystery, history, and the hunt. But before you go diving into your coin jars, here's how to make sure you know what to look for. Check the year, 2015, no mint mark under the date. Step 2, weigh it on a precise digital scale. Anything over 2.9 grams deserves closer inspection. Step 3, look for a rich bronze color and a strong ring when gently tapped. And finally, if you suspect you've found something extraordinary, never clean it. Cleaning destroys collector value. Instead, place it in a soft holder and get it authenticated by PCGS or NGC. Most people overlook modern pennies. They think only old coins are valuable. But this story proves that even a 2015 penny, something minted just a few years ago, can be worth $1 million. All it takes is one rare error, one lucky find, one moment of curiosity. So the next time you get change back at the store, don't just pocket it and move on. Take a second look. That small coin could be the beginning of your own treasure story. Because as we've seen, the 2015 no mint mark Lincoln penny isn't just another cent, it's a symbol of possibility. A reminder that hidden fortunes can lie in plain sight. It started with a penny, dull, ordinary, and almost forgotten. A man in Ohio was cleaning out an old coffee can filled with loose change when one coin caught his eye. It wasn't shiny. It wasn't special. But something about it felt different. That penny, a simple 1987 no-mint Mark Lincoln cent, would soon be revealed as a $1 million treasure hiding in plain sight. You see, this coin almost ended up in the trash. Yet today, collectors are whispering its name in disbelief, because a rare few of these 1987 no-mint Mark Lincoln pennies are worth up to $1 million. That's right, a coin most people wouldn't even bend down to pick up could change someone's life forever. To understand that, we have to go back to the mid-1980s, a time when the U.S. Mint was transitioning its production methods, experimenting with new dyes, and unknowingly creating some of the most valuable minting errors in modern American history. In 1987, Lincoln cents were struck primarily in Philadelphia and Denver. The Philadelphia coins carried no mint mark, a tradition for that mint since the early 1900s. But something unusual happened during that year's production run. A handful of coins left the mint with subtle but dramatic differences, variations so rare that experts still debate their exact cause. Some had double dyes, some had off-center strikes, and others were produced on experimental planchets, blanks that weren't supposed to be used for pennies at all. And one of those mysterious pennies, with no mint mark and an unmistakable error, ended up in the pocket of an unsuspecting American. It traveled through hands, pockets, and change jars for decades, completely unnoticed. Until, one day, it resurfaced and stunned the coin world. But what made it worth $1 million? It wasn't gold. It wasn't silver. It was the story, the rarity, the error, the perfection in imperfection. A single misstep at the mint had turned a 1-cent coin into a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. Collectors and dealers rushed to authenticate it. The coin's details were crisp. The strike was perfect except for one tiny, telling flaw, a faint doubling on Lincoln's profile and an unusual metallic tone revealing it was struck on the wrong kind of planchet. That small error transformed this humble penny into a national sensation. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. At a private auction, collectors battled fiercely for it. The final hammer price? Just under $1 million. For a coin that was never supposed to exist. From that moment on, the 1987 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny became a symbol of hope for every collector, proof that million-dollar miracles can still be found in pocket change. Experts believe there could still be more of these coins out there, hiding in old coin jars, dusty dresser drawers, or forgotten boxes in your garage. Because the error wasn't just one coin. It may have come from a small batch, a run of planchets meant for foreign coinage, accidentally fed into the Lincoln cent presses. Start with the basics. The 1987 penny should, of course, have no mint mark, meaning it was struck in Philadelphia. Next, examine the details. Use a magnifying glass to check Lincoln's ear, the date, and the word Liberty. If you notice even the slightest doubling, that shadow-like second image, your heart might just skip a beat. That's the kind of doubling that could mean your coin is one of the rare error strikes. Also, pay attention to the color and surface. A typical 1987 penny is copper-plated zinc, light, reddish, and prone to corrosion. But the rare errors often appear off-color, with a richer, almost golden tone, a sign they were struck on experimental or foreign planchets. Collectors were shocked when they first realized these variations existed. Dealers scrambled to recheck their inventories. One man in California even found one in his late father's coin collection, mistaking it for a regular penny, until a local coin shop verified the weight was slightly off. That minor difference led to a full appraisal, and eventually, a 6-figure sale. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The coin's weight, the metal composition, the microscopic doubling, these are the clues that separate a regular cent from a fortune. And while most 1987 pennies are worth face value, the rarest ones, in pristine, uncirculated condition, can command life-changing sums. You're emptying your pockets after a long day, and you spot a 1987 penny. You toss it on the table. But what if that little coin is the one? The same kind of coin that turned one man's pocket change into nearly $1 million? That's the thrill that keeps collectors hunting, the dream that the next great discovery might still be out there. And this dream isn't just fantasy. History proves it. Every decade, a new era or variety surfaces, often found by everyday people. A woman in Pennsylvania once discovered a 1992 closed AM penny worth tens of thousands. A teenager in Texas found a 1943 copper penny worth over $1 million. These discoveries happen when no one's expecting them. The key is awareness and patience. First, grab a small digital scale. A normal 1987 penny should weigh about 2.5 grams. If yours is noticeably heavier, around 3.1 grams, it might have been struck on a leftover copper planchet from 1982 or earlier. That's one of the rarest mistakes possible. Next, check the date closely. Any sign of doubling or distortion around the numbers can indicate a doubled die variety. And don't forget the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial side. Look carefully at the words United States of America and 1 cent. If they appear thicker or shadowed, you might have a die variety worth a small fortune. But what makes this story truly magical is how these discoveries change lives. Ordinary people, janitors, teachers, retirees, have stumbled onto these rare coins and walked away with more money than they ever imagined. It's not about luck, it's about curiosity, attention, and the thrill of possibility. The 1987 no-mint mark penny proves that history still hides treasures in plain sight. That even in the digital age, the smallest, simplest object, a 1 cent coin, can hold a story worth $1 million. Collectors often say, the next big find is always one drawer away. And maybe, just maybe, that drawer is yours. So tonight, when you empty your pockets or roll up your spare change, take one extra look. That little brown coin could be your ticket to $1 million surprise. Because the truth is simple, the most valuable coins aren't always the oldest or shiniest. Sometimes, they're the ones everyone else overlooked, and the 1987 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is living proof. Yes, you heard that right. A single 1968 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, something millions of Americans have tossed aside without a second thought, turned out to be worth a life-changing fortune. And the craziest part? One just like it could be sitting in your house right now. The story begins in 1968, a year of change. The Beatles were breaking records, NASA was preparing for the moon landing, and the US Mint was transitioning from one era of coinage to another. But deep inside the mint's presses, something unexpected happened. A few Lincoln pennies left the factory missing something critical, the mint mark. A tiny letter, no bigger than a pinhead, that should have told the world where that coin was born, Denver, San Francisco, or Philadelphia. But this one had nothing. A blank space. An omission so small, most people wouldn't even notice it. Yet that little absence turned a 1 cent coin into $1 million legend. For decades, these no-mint mark 1968 pennies passed through countless hands, in lunch lines, parking meters, vending machines. Nobody noticed. They were just pennies, right? But then, collectors began to talk. Rumors surfaced of a 1968 penny so perfectly struck, so rare in its era, that experts were stunned. It wasn't just another coin. It was a mistake that shouldn't have existed at all. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. A collector in California, known only by his first name, Thomas, purchased a roll of old pennies at a flea market for less than $5. Inside that roll was something extraordinary, a flawless 1968 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, shimmering with a deep red luster. When he took it to be appraised, the dealer froze. It wasn't just clean. It wasn't just rare. It was nearly perfect, and that's when everything changed. Collectors were shocked when that coin hit the auction block. It sold for over $1.1 million. 1 cent, transformed into more money than most people earn in a lifetime. Suddenly, the quiet hum of the coin collecting world turned into a roar. Dealers began combing through penny jars, magnifying glasses in hand, hoping to find another hidden gem. Even ordinary people who had never cared about coins before started checking their pocket change. The answer is hidden in the minting process itself. In 1968, the Philadelphia Mint didn't use a mint mark, But the rarest versions of this penny weren't just missing that mark, they were struck with extraordinary detail, almost proof-like quality. Some were believed to have been test strikes or experimental runs, somehow released into circulation by mistake. That's why the finest examples, those with deep mirror surfaces and sharp Lincoln details, are worth a fortune today. And just when experts thought they'd seen it all, another jaw-dropping twist emerged. A small batch of these 1968 no-mint mark pennies appeared to have been struck using a slightly different die, producing a faint doubling on the letters, Liberty, and In God We Trust. This doubling made them even rarer, and collectors lost their minds. Suddenly, every 1968 penny became a potential treasure. But only the sharp-eyed could spot the difference. Dealers rushed to authenticate coins, grading services received floods of submissions, and stories poured in of people cashing in coins they'd held onto for decades. One man from Ohio reportedly found one in his late father's coin jar and sold it for enough to pay off his mortgage. A teenager from Florida discovered another in an inherited collection and used the money to fund his college tuition. Everyday people, discovering once-in-a-lifetime treasures hiding in plain sight. But what makes this story even more powerful is the symbolism behind it. Think about it, a simple penny, something so ordinary, dismissed and forgotten, ends up being worth more than a luxury car. It's a reminder that even the smallest things can hold unimaginable value when looked at closely enough. That's the beauty of coin collecting, the thrill of the hunt, the mystery of history, and the joy of discovery all rolled into one tiny piece of copper. Now, before you start tearing through your piggy bank, let's talk about how to identify the right coin. First, flip it over and check the date. It must be 1968, with no mint mark under the date. If you see a small D or S, that's from Denver or San Francisco, not the one we're after. Next, look closely at the surface. Does it shine like a mirror? Are Lincoln's details sharp, almost three-dimensional? That's a sign of a high-grade strike, the kind that makes collectors drool. If the coin has doubling on the letters or a strong, rich red color, you may be holding something truly special. And don't forget, condition is everything. A 1968 penny in worn condition might only fetch a few dollars. But in mid-state condition, especially graded MS-67 or higher, the price skyrockets. The finest known example fetched over $1.1 million, making it one of the most talked about Lincoln cents in modern history. $1 million pennies like this don't just come around every day, they're once-in-a-generation finds. No one knows exactly how many of these 1968 no-mint mark pennies still exist. Some believe only a handful survived in pristine condition. Others suspect more are still out there, tucked inside jars, forgotten drawers, or family coin boxes, waiting to be discovered. Every time someone opens a roll of old pennies, there's that spark of hope. Could this be the one? So here's my advice: check your change. Look at every 1968 penny you find. Examine it under good light. That tiny missing letter, that flawless shine, could turn your day around forever. Because the next $1 million discovery won't come from a museum or a mint vault. It'll come from someone just like you, someone who decided to look twice. And if this story lit that spark inside you, don't let it fade. Subscribe to this channel for more coin secrets, tips, and discoveries that could change your life. Because the next time you see a 1968 penny with no mint mark, remember this: it might not just be a penny. It could be your $1 million miracle, hiding right in plain sight. But that's exactly what happened with the 1979 D. Lincoln penny. This little copper coin, struck over 4 decades ago in Denver, has stunned collectors across America. One coin, one mistake, one moment in minting history, and suddenly, it's not just pocket change, it's life-changing. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but sold for nearly $1 million. Imagine that, something worth less than a stick of gum suddenly becoming the golden ticket of your lifetime. The US Mint was shifting technologies, improving coin presses, and experimenting with new dies. But somewhere in that process, something went wrong, beautifully wrong. A batch of 1979 Lincoln pennies struck at the Denver Mint left the facility with a minting error so subtle that even trained eyes could miss it. Yet that very imperfection, hidden in plain sight, made these coins worth hundreds of thousands, and won over $1.2 million at auction. Collectors were shocked when the first specimen appeared. The coin looked almost ordinary: Abraham Lincoln's familiar portrait, the word Liberty to the left, and the D mint mark just below the date. But under magnification, experts noticed a doubling in the date and lettering, a rare double die obverse. The design elements weren't simply misaligned, they appeared shadowed, ghost-like, as if the coin had been struck twice. And that's when the excitement began. Dealers rushed to verify the discovery. Word spread fast, coin forums lit up, collectors traded theories, and some began checking every 1979 D penny they could find. For years, these coins sat unnoticed in jars, drawers, and dusty coin albums. And then one man, a casual collector from Colorado, found his. It was sitting in an old coffee tin his father had kept since the 1980s. When he sent it for grading, the result left him speechless. His father's penny, a simple memento of everyday life, was valued at over $1.20 million. But what made this coin so valuable wasn't just the doubling. The color, the luster, and the pristine condition all played a part. Mint State 67 red examples, the highest quality known, are nearly impossible to find. Most circulated coins show scratches, wear, or dull toning. That's a once-in-a-lifetime discovery, and here's where things get truly interesting. Not all 1979 D pennies are valuable, far from it. Most are worth 1 cent, maybe a few dollars if they're shiny and uncirculated. But those with the double die obverse or die break errors, tiny cracks where the die fractured during striking, can skyrocket in value. Some even show die cuts around the rim or abnormal marks on Lincoln's jacket. Each flaw tells a story of the minting process gone wrong, and each one can turn your coin into gold. Every error coin is a fingerprint of the mint itself, a moment where the machine made art instead of money. That's why collectors crave these. They're not just coins, they're accidents frozen in metal. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When that Colorado man's penny went to auction, bidding started modestly, just a few $100s. Then, in minutes, it shot past $10,000, then $100,000, then $500,000. Seasoned dealers couldn't believe their eyes. By the end of the night, that little 1979 D Lincoln penny had sold for over $1.2 million. 1 cent turned into a small fortune. Stories like this remind collectors why they keep searching. Every coin is a mystery waiting to be solved. And with 1979 pennies, the thrill is real, because the Denver Mint produced over $4.1 billion that year. Statistically, there could still be hundreds of rare error coins hiding out there, undiscovered. Maybe in a jar at your grandmother's house. Maybe in the change from your morning coffee. Start with the mint mark, the small d, under the date. Make sure it's sharp and clear. Then, look closely at the date. 1979. And the word Liberty. If the letters look slightly doubled or blurry, or if Lincoln's eye appears shadowed, that's a major clue. Use a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe. Even a small distortion can mean a big payday. The color and shine. High-value specimens have a rich red luster, not brown or dull copper. That means they've been preserved in mint state. Handle them carefully, no touching the surface, only the edges. One fingerprint can drop the value by thousands. Some 1979 D pennies were struck on leftover planchets, blank discs intended for other denominations. When this happens, the coin's weight and thickness differ slightly from normal. A simple digital scale can reveal if your penny is off. If it weighs less or more than 3.11 grams, you could be holding something special. Collectors are obsessed with this year because the late 1970s marked the end of an era. It was the final stretch before major design changes and new minting standards. In many ways, 1979 pennies bridge the gap between the classic and the modern, and eras from this period carry both historical and sentimental value. That's why experts believe the 1979 D double-die pennies will continue to rise in price as fewer are found in pristine condition. Now, here's the emotional side of the story. Think about the man whose father left behind that coffee tin. For decades it sat untouched, just ordinary change. He never imagined that one of those coins could change his family's future. When he learned the value, he said, "Dad always told me to save my pennies. I just didn't realize one of them would save me back." That's the magic of coin collecting. It's not just about money, it's about history, memory, and luck colliding, and yet thousands of people still overlook these coins every day. Pennies get thrown out, lost, or forgotten. But for a few lucky collectors, a sharp eye and a bit of patience have turned pocket change into retirement money. One coin dealer in Florida even claims to have found another 1979 D-era penny while sorting bulk coins. It graded slightly lower but still sold for over $35,000. That's the power of a tiny detail, one misplaced strike, one minting anomaly, turning a cent into a small fortune. But here's where it gets thrilling. Some experts believe there are still unreported variations of the 1979 D penny waiting to surface. The mint produced billions of coins using multiple die pairs, meaning several distinct era types could exist. Some collectors have already identified repunched mint marks, where the D was struck twice, and even off-center strikes. Each discovery only adds more mystery to this legendary year. Before you spend that old penny, stop and look. Tilt it under the light. Check for doubling, cracks, or shadows. Weigh it. Study the details. Because history has already proven, one of these coins can be worth over $1 million. And the best part? Nobody knows how many are still out there. This is what makes the 1979 D Lincoln penny so captivating. It's a coin that shouldn't exist the way it does. A product of chance, a whisper from the mint's machinery, a reminder that even the smallest things can hold incredible secrets. It's not just a story about money. It's about discovery, patience, and the possibility that the next big find is sitting right in your own hands. Collectors call it the penny that dreams are made of. Because somewhere out there, another one is waiting to be found. Maybe in your change jar. Maybe in your glove compartment. Maybe in a forgotten box of coins your grandparents saved long ago. But when collectors found out what it really was, their jaws dropped. This ordinary-looking 1978 D Lincoln penny, the kind you might have in your change jar right now, turned out to be worth up to $1 million. It's one of those stories that feels too incredible to be true, yet every detail checks out. A simple coin, minted in Denver back in 1978, suddenly became the talk of the coin world because of a minting mystery that slipped past even the most experienced eyes at the U.S. Mint. And today, we're going to uncover exactly why this penny, yes, a 1-cent coin, could change your life if you happen to find one like it. The year was 1978. Gas was cheap, Jimmy Carter was president, and pocket change actually mattered. Millions of Lincoln pennies rolled out of the Denver Mint, each stamped with that tiny D beneath Lincoln's shoulder. Nothing special, or so everyone thought. But deep within that massive production run, a few pennies came out, different. Subtle differences, almost invisible at first glance. The kind that would make a normal coin worth $1 million if discovered. But what could possibly make a single penny so valuable? Here's where the story takes a turn. Collectors discovered that some of these 1978 D Lincoln cents were struck on the wrong planchet, meaning the blank metal disc used was never meant for that coin. Some were made with experimental copper zinc compositions, others with slightly off weights or surfaces, and a few with a double die obverse, a rare minting error where Lincoln's image, or the date itself, appears doubled. These small errors, missed during quality control, transformed an ordinary coin into something truly extraordinary. One man in Colorado found one such penny while rolling coins at his kitchen table. He'd been saving change for years, not for collecting, just for bills. But when he saw the strange luster and the slight doubling on the date, he got curious. He took it to a local coin dealer who nearly fell out of his chair. That coin eventually made its way to auction, shocking everyone when the bids skyrocketed. By the time the hammer fell, that tiny copper coin sold for over $900,000. A penny sold for nearly $1 million, and that's when the frenzy began. Collectors across the U.S. started combing through their 1978 pennies, hoping lightning would strike twice. But finding the right one wasn't easy. Some of these valuable coins had been spent, scratched, or worn down, losing the sharp details that made them identifiable. Others were hiding in forgotten coffee cans, drawers, and old piggy banks, waiting for someone to realize what they had. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. New varieties of the 1978 penny began appearing, each more mysterious than the last. Some had die cracks, tiny raised lines on the surface where the minting die began to fracture. Others had off-center strikes, where Lincoln's portrait was slightly misaligned, revealing the raw copper edge. A few even had missing letters in Liberty, or the motto, "In God We Trust." Every one of these variations, when verified, commanded huge prices, sometimes tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands, and in a few cases, up to $1 million. Dealers were rushing to get their hands on these coins. Grading companies started receiving waves of 1978 pennies, most of them ordinary, but every so often, one would come through the doors that made the experts pause. When they saw those telltale signs, the doubling on the date, the strange planchet surface, the off-metal composition, they knew they were holding something extraordinary. One expert reportedly said, "You can feel it. You just know when a penny like this comes in, it's not just a coin. It's history." First, check under Lincoln's shoulder for that small D mint mark that tells you it was struck in Denver. Then, under good lighting, look closely at the date. If you see any doubling, especially on the 1 or 9, that's a huge red flag that it could be a rare double die. Next, weigh the coin. A regular 1978 penny should weigh about 3.11 grams if it's the older copper type, but if yours is significantly lighter, closer to 2.5 grams, it might have been struck on a transitional or experimental zinc planchet. That's where the real value lies, and don't forget the edges and lettering. If Liberty looks off, or if the rim appears unusually thick or uneven, that's another indicator of a minting error. Even small die cracks, which look like tiny raised lines, can add serious value. Each detail could be the difference between a penny worth 1 cent and one worth $1 million. Collectors were shocked when PCGS, one of the top grading services, confirmed that a handful of 1978 Lincoln cents showed these rare traits. Each verified coin sent ripples through the collecting community. Suddenly, every pocket change became a potential treasure chest. People started buying rolls of 1978 pennies from eBay, coin shows, even bank vaults, hoping to find the next jackpot. One retired mail carrier from Kansas did just that. He ordered a $25 box of pennies from his bank, just for fun. After hours of searching, he spotted a strange doubling on the D mint mark and the date. When he got it authenticated, it turned out to be one of the rarest known examples, valued at over $850,000. He said, "I couldn't believe it. I've been walking past change my whole life, and that one day, that one penny, changed everything." It's stories like that that keep collectors dreaming. Because every once in a while, a coin that should have been ordinary turns out to be worth a fortune. And the truth is, you don't need a magnifying glass to find one. You just need curiosity, a sharp eye, and a little patience. Not all 1978 pennies that look different are valuable. Some have machine doubling, which happens during striking and doesn't add much value. Others are damaged after leaving the mint, which can trick even experienced eyes. So before you celebrate, always have your coin checked by a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC. They're the ones who can confirm whether your penny truly holds that $1 million potential. Now imagine this: somewhere out there, sitting in an old coffee can or change jar, there could be another undiscovered 1978 Lincoln penny with that same rare minting error. A coin waiting for someone just like you to find it. Dealers still believe only a small handful exist, which means every new discovery could send shockwaves through the coin world all over again. Collectors are always chasing the next big find, the story that makes headlines, the penny that turns into $1 million overnight. And history keeps proving it can happen. It's happened before, and it'll happen again. Maybe not in a fancy auction hall, but in a kitchen, a garage, or a dusty old coin jar.so. Take a look at your change tonight. Pull out those 1978 D Lincoln pennies. Check the details, look at the date, weigh them if you can. Because the difference between a penny and a payday could be right there, hiding in plain sight. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. So before you spend it, make sure you know what you're holding. And if you love discovering hidden treasures like this one, don't forget to subscribe, because the next coin we uncover might just be the one that changes your life forever. Imagine this: you're at your kitchen table, rolling up pennies for the bank, not thinking twice. You grab a small, shiny copper coin from the pile, toss it into the roll, and unknowingly, you've just let go of a $1.1 million treasure. That's exactly what nearly happened with the mysterious 2006 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, a coin that turned an ordinary day into a story collectors still whisper about. They see history, rarity, and the potential for life-changing fortune. And the 2006 no-mint mark Lincoln penny has become one of the most talked about modern coins in American numismatic history, not because of what it shows, but because of what it doesn't. No-mint mark.no clear origin, and a value that soared far beyond anyone's imagination. You see, by 2006, the U.S. Mint had streamlined production. Denver pennies carried the D. Philadelphia pennies, for decades, often went without a mint mark, but something about the 2006 batch was different. Some collectors started noticing a strange inconsistency. The color looked slightly off, the weight felt lighter, and under a magnifying glass, the surface texture didn't match typical copper-plated zinc cents. At first, people thought it was just a bad batch. Nothing special. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. A collector in Illinois submitted what he thought was an ordinary 2006 penny to be graded, just to fill a hole in his collection. When the results came back, his hands reportedly shook. The coin was identified as an ultra-rare transitional error, a coin struck on a leftover planchet from an earlier year, using the 2006 design, but missing the mint mark and showing unique metallic composition. That single mistake, a tiny oversight buried deep in the minting process, transformed a 1-cent coin into $1 million phenomenon. Word spread fast. Dealers were stunned. Collectors began tearing through jars, drawers, even vending machine trays, hunting for the elusive 2006 no-mint mark penny. Coin shops from coast to coast were suddenly fielding calls from people convinced they'd found the jackpot. But here's the twist: most hadn't. The true rarity lies not just in the missing mint mark, but in the physical traits that set it apart from all the rest. The valuable 2006 no-mint mark penny appears with slightly deeper coloration, a richer copper tone, and faint doubling on the "In God We Trust" inscription. Under magnification, the edges look smoother, almost polished, compared to the normal machine finish. And if you check the weight, a genuine transitional 2006 no-mint mark error tends to weigh slightly more, around 3.11 grams instead of the standard 2.5.1. Man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. When word broke of that first confirmed sale, collectors couldn't believe the numbers. The coin, authenticated and graded at MS-68, fetched a jaw-dropping $1.1 million at private auction, an unheard-of figure for a modern Lincoln cent. The buyer? A well-known Midwest collector who, according to insiders, simply said, "You can't put a price on history." And just like that, the legend of the 2006 no-mint mark penny was born. But the story didn't stop there. More reports began trickling in, mysterious no-mint mark coins popping up in circulation, each slightly different. Some had faint die cracks, others had unusual rim thickness, and a few even appeared to be struck slightly off-center. Collectors debated. Forums exploded. YouTube videos racked up millions of views as people compared their pocket change under phone cameras, hoping for that 1 in a billion match. But what makes this coin truly fascinating is its symbolism. The 2006 no-mint mark penny isn't just a manufacturing mistake, It's a perfect metaphor for the overlooked treasures we walk past every single day. A penny that everyone ignored for years, now worth over $1 million. It reminds us that even the smallest, most ordinary things can hold extraordinary value, if you know how to look closely. But let's get practical for a second. If you're watching this and wondering, could I have one? Here's exactly what to do. First, grab your magnifying glass or coin loupe and find your 2006 Lincoln pennies. Focus on three main areas: the mint mark space just below the date, the "In God We Trust" lettering, and the rim dot. If you notice no mint mark at all, not even a faint D, you've cleared the first hurdle. Next, check for unusual coloration. Real copper errors often have a warm reddish tone that doesn't match the duller, orange-plated look of most 2006 coins. Then, weigh it. A regular 2006 penny should weigh 2.5 grams, but if your scale reads around 3.1 grams, congratulations, you might have something extraordinary. Still, don't jump straight to conclusions. Many counterfeits or heavily damaged coins can appear similar. That's why professional grading is crucial. Send your coin to PCGS or NGC, the top grading companies, and have it authenticated. You might just be holding one of the most valuable modern pennies ever discovered. But here's the part that really gives collectors chills. The US Mint never officially confirmed how these no-mint mark 2006 pennies entered circulation. Some theories suggest they were test strikes accidentally released. Others believe they were part of a limited internal batch that somehow slipped through inspection. Whatever the truth is, the mystery only adds to the magic. Because every day, somewhere in America, someone empties their pockets, looks down, and wonders if that little brown coin might be the key to $1 million surprise. Imagine the feeling, your heart racing, hands trembling as you realize the coin sitting in your palm isn't worth 1 cent. It's worth more than your house, your car, maybe your entire retirement fund. That's what keeps this story alive. That's why collectors never stop searching. And here's the best part: these treasures are still out there. Found in loose change, tucked in old coffee cans, sitting quietly in your dresser drawer, waiting for someone who knows what to look for. So next time you come across a 2006 penny with no mint mark, don't toss it aside. Don't let it disappear into a coin jar. Look closer. Weigh it. Study it. Because that tiny detail, that missing letter, could be the difference between 1 cent and $1 million. Collectors were shocked when the first discovery came to light, but that's the beauty of coin collecting. It's not just about money. It's about discovery, history, and the thrill of realizing something priceless has been hiding in plain sight. So keep your eyes open. Search those pennies. Because somewhere out there, another 2006 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is waiting for its moment, waiting for you to find it. And who knows, maybe the next $1 million miracle will be yours. If you love stories like this, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because every week, we reveal another hidden treasure that could be sitting right in your pocket. This coin almost ended up in a gas station change tray, but today, it's worth over $1 million. Yes, you heard that right, a single 1964 mint mark Lincoln penny, the kind most people wouldn't even glance at, could secretly be worth up to $1.20 million. Imagine this. A man in Colorado casually empties his pocket after work, counting out a few crumpled bills and a handful of change. One of those coins, a dull brown penny with a tiny D under the date, ends up tossed into an old coffee tin. Years later, when cleaning his garage, he finds it again, only to realize he's been sitting on a life-changing treasure all along. That's where the story turns mysterious. The year was 1964, and the U.S. Mint in Denver was under enormous pressure. Millions of coins were being struck every day, but chaos was brewing. The Mint was transitioning coin designs, battling production errors, and experimenting with new die polishing techniques. Somewhere in that frenzy, a small batch of 1964 Lincoln pennies came out, different. Collectors believe these ultra-rare 1964 pennies were struck on leftover 95% copper planchets with microscopic variations, like doubled dies, off-center strikes, and proof-like mirror surfaces that shouldn't even exist on regular circulation coins. These minting oddities, once overlooked, became golden tickets decades later. But here's the twist: for years, these coins passed from hand to hand unnoticed. They paid for sodas, gum, and morning newspapers. Nobody realized they were handling a coin that could one day pay off a house. It wasn't until a sharp-eyed collector stumbled upon one at a flea market that the truth started to unfold. He thought it looked different. Sharper details on Lincoln's profile, deeper rim edges, and a faint doubling on the word Liberty. He sent it off for grading, and when it came back, the results stunned the coin community. It was a rare die variation from the Denver Mint, in near-perfect condition. The appraised value? Over $1 million. Collectors were shocked. Coin forums lit up overnight. Everyone wanted to know, how could a penny from one of the most common years in American coinage suddenly be worth that much? The answer lies in the details most people miss. You see, in 1964, billions of pennies were struck, over 3 billion from Denver alone. But only a few escaped with the minting errors that make them priceless today. A slight doubling on the date, a misplaced mint mark, or an unusually sharp strike, those are the hallmarks of the million-dollar versions. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Once news broke of that million-dollar sale, collectors started tearing through their jars, checking every 1964 penny they could find. Pawn shops were flooded with hopeful visitors carrying sandwich bags full of copper cents. Dealers were racing to inspect them, magnifiers in hand, searching for that tiny difference that separates an ordinary coin from a million-dollar miracle. And here's where it gets even crazier. Another specimen surfaced. This one with a proof-like finish, struck with mirror-polished dies that the mint supposedly never used for regular 1964 coins. Experts couldn't explain how it existed, but its authenticity was undeniable. When it hit auction, the bidding war was fierce. The hammer finally fell, just over $1.20 million. Collectors couldn't believe it. A penny, a single cent, that most people would overlook, had just changed someone's life forever. But this isn't just about luck. It's about knowing what to look for. The difference between a regular 1964 penny worth 1 cent and a rare variety worth over $1 million comes down to details so small, you could miss them in a blink. If you're holding a 1964 penny, here's what to check. Look closely at the date, see if the numbers show any doubling, especially on the 9 or the 4. Next, examine the mint mark, the tiny D below the date. If it looks misaligned or repunched, you might have a rare variety. Then flip the coin over. On the reverse, check the Lincoln Memorial. Some rare strikes show doubling on the word States, or the columns of the memorial itself. And if your coin shines with a mirror-like surface, even after all these years, it could be one of those proof-like errors that collectors will pay a fortune for. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these, and grading services like PCGS and NGC have confirmed that a handful of these high-grade 1964 pennies still surface occasionally, each time shaking up the market all over again. Just think about that. One man's pocket change, forgotten for decades, became a six-figure discovery. Another collector's coin jar turned into a retirement fund. Every 1964 penny you find could carry that same potential. But what's truly thrilling is how unpredictable this world is. The rarest coins don't always come from the oldest years or the most famous mints. Sometimes they're hidden in plain sight, tucked inside old jars, forgotten in drawers, or sitting in your own change. Every penny tells a story, and some tell one worth $1 million. So the next time you spot a 1964 penny, don't ignore it. Examine it carefully, look for those hidden signs, and imagine what it might be worth. Because history has shown that even the smallest coin can hold the biggest surprise. Somewhere out there, another 1964 penny just like it is waiting to be found. Maybe in a cash register. Maybe in your old piggy bank. Or maybe it's already in your pocket. So take a closer look. That ordinary coin could be your once-in-a-lifetime discovery. Because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. It started like any other day. A man in Denver emptied his pockets after work, a few crumpled bills, a grocery receipt, and a handful of ordinary-looking pennies. But among them was one coin that would soon stun the coin-collecting world. What looked like a regular 1984 D Lincoln penny turned out to be worth up to $1.3 million. This coin almost went unnoticed, almost tossed aside, spent on a pack of gum, or left in a dusty jar. But sharp eyes and a bit of luck changed everything. The 1984 D Lincoln penny hides a secret so small, so invisible to most people, that thousands have probably handled one without realizing they were holding a life-changing treasure. Now, before you rush to check your coins, let's go back to where it all began, inside the U.S. Mint in Denver, 1984. Millions of Lincoln cents were being struck that year, each bearing the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln designed by Victor David Brenner. But somewhere along the minting line, something went terribly, or maybe wonderfully wrong. A die used to strike the penny developed a faint, almost ghostly doubling, a tiny imperfection that would create one of the most desirable modern Lincoln cents in existence. Collectors call it the 1984 D doubled ear penny, because right below Lincoln's earlobe, there appears to be a second ear. It's not dirt. It's not damage. It's an actual doubling of the die, a minting error that gives the illusion of two distinct earlobes. It's one of those mistakes that slipped through the cracks of mint inspection and made its way into circulation. Only a handful of these error pennies are known to exist in pristine condition. Most were spent, worn down, or lost decades ago. The few that remain? They've sold for prices that make even veteran collectors' jaws drop. One specimen, in nearly flawless condition, fetched over $1 million at auction. The exact figure? Around $1.3 million, for a coin that cost 1 cent to make. The story goes that one collector, a man from Texas, was sorting through a bag of pennies from his local bank. He wasn't expecting anything special, just another day of casual coin hunting. But as he examined one coin under the light, something caught his eye. Lincoln's ear looked wrong. He thought it was his imagination, but a closer look under a magnifier revealed the truth, the doubled ear. That single discovery changed his life. He went from casual collector to national news headline overnight. Word spread fast. Coin forums exploded. Dealers across the country started pulling out magnifiers, hoping lightning would strike twice. And just like that, the legend of the 1984 D doubled ear penny was born. It's not just about the doubling, it's about the story. It's about how a small imperfection, a mistake, turns something ordinary into something extraordinary. It's a reminder that sometimes, perfection isn't what makes things valuable, flaws are. And yet, even today, this coin remains one of the hardest to find. Thousands of 1984 D pennies still circulate across America, in coffee shops, cash registers, and coin jars. Some of them could be the real deal, hiding in plain sight. And that's why collectors are obsessed. Every time they pick up a penny from 1984 with a little D under the date, their heart races. Could this be the one? But here's where it gets even more interesting. Many people mistake other forms of damage or die wear for doubling. They think they've found the jackpot, but they haven't. So how can you tell the real 1984 D doubled ear penny from a fake? Start with the ear. The genuine error shows clear doubling, not fuzzy, not smeared, but a distinct, sharp second earlobe just beneath the main one. You don't need fancy equipment. A simple magnifying glass or even your phone camera zoomed in close can do the trick. If you see it, compare it with verified images from trusted coin sources. And if it matches, well, you might just be holding your own $1 million miracle. Collectors were shocked when the first one surfaced. Dealers scrambled to verify it. And when the auction hammer fell, the price stunned everyone. Proof that even modern coins could hold unimaginable value. Think about that for a moment. A coin minted just a few decades ago, still shiny, still familiar, carrying a secret worth over $1 million. That's the kind of story that keeps collectors awake at night. The idea that treasure could be hiding in their change right now. But here's a twist most people don't know. Not every 1984 D penny with a doubled ear looks the same. Some show stronger doubling than others, and condition matters a lot. If your coin has scratches, corrosion, or heavy wear, its value drops dramatically. But if it's clean, well preserved, and shows that doubling clearly, you're looking at one of the rarest pennies ever discovered. And get this, coin grading companies like PCGS and NGC have certified only a limited number of these coins at the highest grades. That scarcity drives collectors wild. It's why prices have soared over the years and continue to climb. There's also something poetic about it. Abraham Lincoln, the man who symbolized honesty and perseverance, stamped on a coin that defied expectations, surviving unnoticed for decades before revealing its worth. Maybe that's why this penny feels so symbolic. It's not just copper and zinc. It's history. It's hope. It's the dream that something small can still change everything. But what happened next stunned even experienced numismatists. After the $1 million sale, counterfeit versions began popping up everywhere. People tried to scratch lines, create fake doubling, or even glue copper layers to mimic the error. So remember, if you think you've found one, never clean or alter it. Take it straight to a professional coin dealer or grading service. A simple mistake like cleaning it with a cloth could reduce its value by thousands. Every collector knows that feeling, the rush of flipping through coins, heart pounding, eyes straining for that one telltale sign. Most of the time, it's just pennies. But once in a while, lightning strikes. And when it does, it's worth $1 million. Absolutely. These coins didn't vanish. They're still out there. In piggy banks. In coin rolls from banks. In old jars sitting forgotten in garages and basements. Maybe even in your pocket right now. A small D right below it. And that doubled ear, crisp, clean, unmistakable. That's the signature of this legendary coin. Anything else is just wishful thinking. Imagine walking into a coin shop with a penny you've had for years, only to learn it's worth more than your car. That's not fantasy. That's exactly what's happened to people before. Ordinary folks, not professional collectors, who got lucky because they paid attention. And maybe that's the biggest lesson this coin teaches us: value isn't always obvious. Sometimes the treasure's been in front of us all along, we just never stop to look closely enough. So the next time you grab a handful of change, don't overlook the pennies. Don't assume they're worthless. Because in 1984, the US Mint accidentally created one of the most valuable modern coins in American history. And one of them could be waiting for you to find it. If you enjoyed this story and you're ready to uncover more hidden treasures like this, make sure to subscribe. I share secrets about coins that could change your life, the ones worth thousands, even millions. So keep your eyes open, your magnifier handy, and your curiosity alive. Because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. It started like any other ordinary day. A man in Denver was rolling up his loose change to cash in at the bank. He glanced at a shiny 2006 penny, thought nothing of it, and tossed it into the pile. But here's the twist: that single coin could have paid off his entire mortgage. Because hidden among the billions of 2006 Lincoln pennies, a few carry a secret so rare they've sold for as much as $1.4 million. You might be holding one right now, and never even realize it. This isn't some collector's myth or wild rumor. The 2006 D Mint Mark Lincoln penny is one of those mysterious modern coins that slipped through the cracks of US mint perfection. At first glance, it looks just like every other penny: Abraham Lincoln facing right, the Lincoln Memorial gleaming on the reverse. But underneath that familiar copper glow lies a mistake so small, so specific, that it turned an ordinary cent into a millionaire maker. Collectors still whisper about how it all began. In 2006, the Denver Mint was in full swing, producing over 4 billion pennies. Machines were moving fast, the pressure was on, and quality control missed something. Somewhere along the line, a handful of planchets, that's the blank metal discs before they're stamped, were struck on experimental or foreign alloy material. The color was subtly off, the weight slightly different, and the strike quality unlike any normal penny. And here's where the story gets incredible. One of these era coins, a 2006 D Lincoln penny, ended up in circulation. It passed from hand to hand, through coffee shops, vending machines, and gas stations. Years later, a sharp-eyed collector spotted something strange. The coin had a unique texture, a faint doubling on Liberty, and the D mint mark looked slightly misplaced. After a professional grading, experts confirmed it was a one-of-a-kind minting error. When it finally hit the auction block, the bids went wild, ending at nearly $1.4 million. Yes, 1 cent, worth more than a luxury house. But what makes this coin so special isn't just a mistake, it's the fact that almost nobody knows how to spot it. Millions of 2060 pennies still sit in jars, drawers, and glove boxes across America, hiding in plain sight. And one of them could be worth a fortune. Collectors were stunned when the news broke. Dealers started combing through entire bank boxes of 2006 pennies, hoping lightning would strike twice. Forums exploded with speculation. Was it a metal composition error? A double die? A striking misalignment? Experts debated, but one thing was clear: this coin shattered expectations for modern Lincoln cents. Here's where things get even more mysterious. Some experts believe multiple varieties of the 2060 error exist, possibly due to a batch of planchets imported from another minting facility or leftover blanks from a test run. These pennies often have a slightly off tone, a more golden hue or a duller finish compared to regular copper-coated zinc coins. Others show light doubling around the words, "In God We Trust," or a faint die crack running through Lincoln's bust. It's subtle, but it's what turns a penny into a treasure. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. After that record-breaking sale, the hunt for the 2060 mint mark penny became an obsession. People were posting videos, snapping photos, weighing their coins down to the tenth of a gram. And every so often, another rare one surfaced, fetching tens of thousands at smaller auctions, depending on its condition and the type of error. Think about that. Somewhere, someone might still have the $1 million version sitting in a forgotten piggy bank. Let's talk about how to tell if yours is the real deal. Grab a magnifying glass or a jeweler's loupe. Look closely at the mint mark, the tiny D just below the ear. On the valuable version, it may look slightly tilted or thicker than usual. Check the surface for doubling, especially on Liberty and In God We Trust. The details might appear shadowed, like a ghost image just beside the letters. The coin might also feel slightly heavier or lighter, depending on what metal it was struck on. The normal 2060 penny weighs about 2.5 grams. If yours comes in closer to 3 grams or under 2 grams, you could be looking at a rare planchet error. And if the color looks off, more bronze or golden instead of reddish, that's another clue. But remember, authenticity matters. Always have your coin checked by a reputable grading company like PCGS or NGC before assuming it's the jackpot. One collector described the moment he realized what he had. He said, "I was about to use it at a vending machine, but something about the shine made me pause. I flipped it, weighed it, and nearly dropped it when I saw the doubled lettering." That single penny, sitting in his pocket, changed his life. It sold for hundreds of thousands, a true $1 million miracle in miniature, and that's the magic of coin collecting. Every handful of change holds the potential for discovery, for luck, for history. These aren't just coins, they're pieces of time, frozen in metal. The 2060 penny reminds us that even in a modern era of mass production, errors still happen, and rarity still finds a way to sneak through. But here's the twist most people miss. Some of these valuable 2060 pennies were struck on older, leftover copper planchets, the kind used before 1982, when pennies were still made mostly of copper instead of zinc. That means if you have one that weighs around 3.1 grams, you might just have one of the rarest modern cents ever minted. Imagine that, a 2006 penny struck on a 1982 planchet, hiding in your change for nearly 2 decades. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on this coin, and serious collectors are paying premium prices for confirmed examples. The excitement around it hasn't faded, it's grown. Because each time a new one appears, it's proof that somewhere, hidden among billions of ordinary coins, one extraordinary survivor still exists. People often ask, why would anyone pay $1 million for a penny? The answer is simple: it's not just a coin. It's a story, a mystery, A once-in-a-lifetime accident that shouldn't exist. It's proof that even the smallest piece of change can hold unimaginable value when time, error, and luck align. So the next time you get a handful of coins from the grocery store, take a second look. Flip that 2006 penny over, check for that tiny D mint mark, and look closely for anything unusual, a doubled letter, a strange shine, a slightly different color. Because one of these tiny details is the difference between 1 cent and over $1 million. And remember, the man who discovered the first one almost spent it. He almost let a life-changing treasure slip right through his fingers. Don't make that mistake. Somewhere out there, your 2060 Lincoln penny could be waiting, tucked inside a drawer, hiding in your pocket change, quietly worth a fortune. And until you check, you'll never know. So go look. Because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. But one caught his eye. Something looked different. A faint, off-center strike. The color seemed a touch brighter. He thought it was nothing. But that nothing became a life-changing discovery. Weeks later, that very coin sold for over $1 million. That's right, a penny, worth more than a Ferrari. Let's rewind to 1976, the year America was celebrating its bicentennial. Fireworks lit up the sky, flags waved proudly, and the U.S. Mint was under massive pressure to meet the soaring demand for new coins. Millions of quarters, dimes, nickels, and pennies were struck that year. Yet, deep in the Denver Mint, where the D mint mark was added to coins, a few rare errors slipped through. And those mistakes would create one of the most valuable pennies in American history. Collectors believe the 1970-60 Lincoln penny's value lies in a unique combination of minting flaws and near-perfect preservation. Some were double-die obverse errors, meaning the front design was struck twice, slightly offset. Others had a small, nearly invisible die crack, creating an odd shadow under Lincoln's chin. These imperfections were subtle, but under magnification, they revealed a story of minting chaos, a brief moment where machinery went slightly off alignment during America's 200th birthday celebration. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. One of these 1970-60 pennies, discovered in pristine condition, graded MS67 red by PCGS, fetched an eye-popping price at auction, over $1.5 million. The collector who owned it couldn't believe it. He had bought it for a few cents at a flea market years ago. Dealers were shocked. News spread across forums and YouTube channels. Everyone started checking their change jars, hoping lightning might strike twice. Most of these valuable 1970-60 pennies don't look extraordinary at first glance. In fact, that's the beauty and danger of it. To the untrained eye, they seem completely normal. But under the right light, under magnification, small details emerge that separate $1 million coin from an ordinary penny. Look closely at the mint mark, the small D, under the date. On the valuable version, the mint mark often appears slightly misplaced or tilted, a sign it was hand-punched separately from the die. Some versions even show signs of a repunched mint mark, where a faint shadow, D, sits beneath the main one. That tiny imperfection is one of the clues collectors go crazy for. But that's not all. Flip the coin over and inspect the Lincoln Memorial. The most valuable ones have extremely sharp details. The columns are crisp, and you can see Lincoln's statue clearly between them. On some rare air varieties, parts of the memorial appear doubled or slightly blurred. This doubling is what drives collectors wild. It's like finding a fingerprint of a minting mistake frozen in metal. Still, there's one more secret most people miss. It's the color. The 1970-60 pennies worth serious money often have a deep, glowing reddish copper tone, what professionals call red, or red-brown, in grading terms. The more original luster it has, the higher the value. A dull, brown penny might fetch a few dollars. But a bright, uncirculated one with a unique strike? That's where the $1 million magic happens. Collectors were stunned when the first high-grade specimens surfaced. It wasn't from a vault. It wasn't preserved by a professional. It came from a family's coin jar, decades of forgotten change. That discovery reminded everyone why coin collecting is so thrilling. Every coin in your pocket has a story. Some just haven't been discovered yet, but here's where it gets even crazier. Experts believe there may be fewer than a dozen of these ultra-rare 1970-60 errors still in existence, some possibly hiding in plain sight. Dealers are actively searching, and auction houses have seen bidding wars erupt over mere rumors of another specimen surfacing. People are checking their pennies under magnifiers, under lamps, even photographing them for online grading. Everyone wants to be the next millionaire. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. And it all started because he took a second look. He noticed something others ignored. That's the secret every coin collector knows. Treasure hides in the details. Start with any 1976 penny that has a D mint mark. Use a magnifying glass and examine the date carefully. If the numbers look doubled, if there's a faint line or shadow on the 7 or the 6, you might have a double die variety. Then check the mint mark itself. Is it clean and centered, or does it look repunched, slightly off balance? These are key clues. Next, pay attention to the coin's condition. If your penny still shines, with bright copper red surfaces, minimal scratches, and sharp lettering, it could be worth grading. Don't clean it, that destroys its value. Instead, store it safely in a coin holder and get it evaluated by a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC. Even a small improvement in grade can turn a few $100s into thousands, or in the rarest case, into a fortune. During the 1970s, some planchets, the blank discs used to make pennies, were accidentally mixed from earlier batches containing traces of bronze or zinc variations. This metallic difference can also boost the coin's rarity and value. If your penny looks slightly lighter or heavier in tone, it's worth having its metal composition tested. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on any unsearched rolls of 1970-60 pennies. They know the odds are slim, but the payoff is enormous. Every once in a while, a new example pops up, sometimes in estate sales, sometimes in old collections bought at garage sales for pocket change. And every new discovery reignites the fire for collectors across the nation. So, next time you get change from a store, take a closer look before tossing those pennies aside. Because history has shown that the smallest details, a shifted mint mark, a doubled number, a brighter shine, can mean the difference between 1 cent and $1.5 million. One coin, struck almost 50 years ago, during America's bicentennial, still traveling through time and hands, waiting for someone to notice it. That's not just luck, that's destiny hiding in copper. So maybe tonight, grab that old coffee can or jar of change sitting in your kitchen. Spread those pennies out under the light. Look for that D. Look for the shine. Because the 1970-60 Lincoln penny worth up to $1.5 million could be